し。
うん。チャーハンがね。もうこれめんどくさいし、受け取んないどうしよう。
いや、受け取んなくていいんだね。
いや、一応ダメ元で僕がくださいって言うわじゃん。
Duos just kind of grow and evolve over the year. What are your expectations for the competition?
I mean, I want to see a repeat of what happened at the Invitational, just like a super intense, like first and second going head to head in the last match. I think we're going to see something. We're going to see some early drop fights and whatnot. But yeah, I was there at the Invitational. It was just electric. And I'm hoping to see that again here in Copenhagen.
これ配信できてる?
Crazy was it back in Invitational, right? Kind of the first time we'd had a land like that, and now we're back, but the stakes feel so much higher.
嘘?
あ、できてる。
At the Invitational, it was just electric, and I'm hoping we see that again here in Copenhagen.
コメントやつ。
ちょっと俺見てないです今。すいません。見てないです。ねこれ。
I mean, everyone is always a little nervous before the tournament, but I think once they're in the battle bus, like it's game time. And the stakes
kind of feeling at that time.
I mean, everyone is
always a little
nervous before the tournament, but I think once they're in the battle bus, like it's game time, and the stakes are really high. What this is like the biggest prize pool since World Cup? Correct me if I'm wrong, like $1 million.
倍速であるのなんで知ってんの?
Life-changing amount of money, so I think it's gonna be intense.
倍速で最新刊なんで知ってんの?
いや、すごいっしょ。
いや、俺が賞金付きの YouTube でやれてくだけだ。
I've been playing it since the very beginning. I was honored to be among the Icon series last year, and it's just I'm still loving this game, and I'm super excited to see what you guys have cooked up for the last couple of months of this year, because I mean, it's looking crazy.
That's awesome, Cypher. Where can all these new fans find you?
しゅんてゃんさんの顔のせいで解説の方の顔が見えないです。
嘘?
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
これサイファー PK?
Really appreciate it. We hope you enjoy the competition.
わかんないです。
コメント来てるこれほんまに。
Going crazy. That's right. Y'all can go crazy for Cypher PK. He's a legend.
ああ、サイファー PK。
なんのサイファー PK やんの
？Is the best crowd I think we have ever had. Yeah, and that's great because we're gonna see next level. I don't know that I'm like prepared for what we're gonna see this weekend.
I mean, I know the crowd already. I've seen a lot of cheering so far. There's a group over there. I think they're from Gentle Mates from the French region. They've been really hyped, and you can see them over there. There we go. I don't know if you can hear it, but yeah, they're really hyped. I'm excited to see all the other regions.
あやかさんこんばんは。エイミーさんこんばんは。マチャラブさんこんばんは。テザーさんこんばんは。あまたまさんこんばんは。手振ってください。気持ち悪いか。さすがに。リオさんこんにちは。ライルルルさんこんばんは。いやー、始まったね、ついに。通話は今回世界大会のモデルステインさんです。ステインさんと通話してます今。なんか
俺の大学のロイさんからコメント来た。
観戦配信するらしいです。陸のミジンコさんこんばんは。定期貼ってくれてるんでね、皆さんよかったら見てください。そしてね、今夜すいません。
じゃあ
食べながら行きます。
じゃあ
今もう配信中やけどいい
？Well, we know a couple teams aren't going to have any surge. It's those that, of course, are competing against one another, especially Kanata. Let's just back up here and really touch base on the problems that he's going to face right now. Kanata and Agers are surely, like, you know, two of them, right? And they have a difficult task in front of them. Thomas HD, Malibu Correa, he's really honing in on the fact that he has been playing all weekend long, and he feels like Kanata's focus isn't quite there. Is that going to be the default in his place?
And that's the false sense of security that Kanata's trying to implement into Thomas's brain right there. Because at the end of the day, Kanata is a competitor. I mean, he's one of the few players that we have here that's actually got some of the most FNCS appearances.
Well, you know what? We've had a long road to get here. And all of a sudden, we are closing in on it. So let's go ahead and dim the lights.
T フューと忍者のとこ応援します。
Fortnite fam. A year-long competition has led us here to Copenhagen. These players have fought through the FNCS gauntlet. 3 FNCS majors and alas,
こちらね、今回スポンサーのコカ・コーラさんとね、一緒に見ていきます。
These players have put everything into this competition. 6 regions all going head to head to prove
いいっすね。
But it's about
コカ・コーラいいっ
so
すね。
much more than just that.
うざ。
It's about
い
holding
い
the
と思います
axe of champions high. It's about hoisting a championship trophy. Banking their share of $4 million.
定期の時間なのでそれでは起床。
Above all else, it's about a
ナナミン
that comes with the highest prestige. FNCS Global Champions. After this weekend, one duo will break through.
宮倉さん
and stand
何言ってるんですかこれ。
above
何が
the
何言ってるんですか
rest.
これ。
何言って
This
あの、
is the FNCS
この人は。
Global Championship.
ロイさん
ちゃんと見てる宮倉で今。
ああ、いや、今ちょっと見てる。何言ってるか
なんて読むと思うなんて読むと思うこれ。
何
ブレイ
読む
クスルーザドロップね。
あ、ごめん、ちょっと早い。
え、すごっ何これ。え、立体すぎん
ね、これ、俺ら一緒に観戦できないよ。5R してくれないと。
すいません。
ブレイクスルードロップとかまだ映ってないんだよ、俺の画面はまだ。しゅんちゃんさんの YouTube 見てたら。ナイス？
なんかかっこよめっちゃ。
うわ、顔見たかったけどやめとこ
マジでシェロンとムキムキパパはほんまに頑張ってほしい。
う。そうっすね。僕、ムキムキパパさんの顔大好きなんですよね。
マジ
あと、ステミさん。はい。あと、ユーマさん。あと、ジャイモンさん。大好きです。
完成がやばない。
なんか、結構空席も見えますね。気のせいですか？
かっこよかっこよ。ベノさん来ました。ベノさん降りてきました。女装したベノが。
今から入場だから、俺も、あ、そういうこ
女装したベノさんじゃない今のって。
とね、今、女装したベノさんやったね。全然。
あ、ベノじゃないんこれ。
結構似てたっすね。
むっちゃんさんこんばんは。みんな一緒に見よう。すごいな。来た。
Most importantly, it's the battle that they had to fight through to be here. Bullying their way through the shockwave hammer metal.
来ました。これで丸が無理さっち。
スペボザゴ。
And with 196 total finals appearances,
全然わかんない。
all of them, they are here to show exactly why they're the forerunners of their respective regions.
And you think about it, they had the first chances, the first opportunities put in front of them, and they did.
マリブが。
They secured
マリブがや。
it, and here they are.
かっこよすぎ。
待って、左行きすぎて顔映ってなかった。え、こっから入場？
今のなんだ？
今の入場？
When you guys see them come out on the stage, my gosh, that is just
さすがに入場あるっしょ。
major number one. There's so many big names.
なんだったんや。
Thomas HD though, Malibuka. That's we have eyes on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I heard a massive cheer. Yeah, and we're hearing it right now.
やばこれで完成上がんの。
I think it might well be because he
トーマス
is
HD なんかめっちゃ
Danish man.
なんかもう入場してね。
Perfect player when you think about all of his
でもクイージと
so
ベノいない。
smart. His aim is next level, and of course paired up with Malibuka. This is a dangerous duo. Only bad thing
ここからじゃね。
today, but they have so much skill in this duo that they should be able to overcome the problem.
we've seen sometimes being contested can be a little bit beneficial.
うわ、これ緊張するやろな、マジで。いる人。
One getting second place and only losing by just a single point. They are the best team to have never won an FNCS, but I think that they may be changing that.
なんて言ってるんですか、宮寺さん。
僕はあんま英語得意じゃないんでわかんないです。
ああ、了解です。
教えてほしいです、逆に。
How about we go over to NA Acorn and
なんつってんだろう。
I feel like so many players
like
talked about this duel when they
あ、これコールドなの
saying this is probably one of the best duels in NA period.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype around this duo when they performed in Major #1, of course, coming out with a great performance. I like this duo. You sort of combine a really big brain IGL in Acorn, and arguably one of the best fraggers in NA. Crazy, and I'm expecting to bring that dynamic. You can see them on the screen right now. They're looking happy, they're looking excited, and they should be because they're a top team.
パフォーマンスしてほしいね、入場の。
Can do on a LAN setting at the Invitational, getting a third place finish with his recent or his old duo mate Scented, and I mean, their placements outside of Major 1 was 6 in both Major 2 and Major 3. So even when they're doing their worst, it is still so vastly better than most of the competition.
Now, of course, that was a look at just the qualified players from Major #1. We have 2 more to go. So please give a warm welcome for your qualified players from Major #2. The kinetic blade was the season. It was also the
第2部軍団来るってこと？
全員紹介してもらえるわけではないんだ。
なるほどね。
ムキムキパパさんがなんて呼ばれるのかマジで気になるけど。
おー、ジャイモユマさん。
Considering 18 out of 24 of them have played on a LAN stage here before.
Can you imagine having that experience, bundling it all up and then putting it out
かっこよ。
in front of you, where there is
イ
your
ケメン
chance
が多
to
いっ
めっち
ぱい。
ゃよくね。
bulk of $4 million.
おー、
We know who you're looking at. I know who I'm
また全員じゃないのこ
But
れ。
most importantly, can they step
あ
up? Can they perform here now?
あ、そういうこと
As the times
これさ、
and options are limited.
メジャー1とメジャー2とメジャー3で順番にやってってんのこれ。そういうことじゃない？
I mean, if that was it, right? If that was just the
じゃあ次は
はい、シミュレーター、フォートナイトマウス XY 何使ってますか？ XY、感度ですかね？感度は 800dpi の、5.8 ですね。
Some would say
うわ、
these
普通だってな
are
ってる。
villains of this card, right? These are the guys that went up against
いや、
かっこよ。
fell short. Now
クイジーめっちゃ痩せたくね？
they want to come back
痩せたね。
even
めっちゃ出てる感じで。
than a year ago.
痩せすぎやろ。イケメンやしめっ
One of
ち
the
ゃ。
best teams in EU. I think that's without doubt #1, #2,
Venom.
those 3 because these guys are absolutely incredible. We saw in Major
次メジャー3。
12 game grand finals.
だから誰？
次、ムキムキパパ
Victory
と、
royales. I don't understand how that's even possible. And then
ムキムキパ
arguably the
パ
biggest upset when
え
came when of course they didn't qualify to Major 3
シェロン
grand finals. How does
ラ
that
ク
affect
さ
their
ん
mentality going to
ボビー
this?
さん
Is this now a bit of a redemption for them? Not winning an
と、あ
invitational,
と
not
誰だっけ？
making Major 3 grand finals. What a better time
あ、
to
ス
do
テ
it.
インデータスか？
Listen,
ステインさんでいい
the
ですね。
whole adage, you know, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, or shame on you, or whatever. It may be something like that.
Not good at those.
They
Well,
changed
Mickey
their
Papa
drop
かっこいい
spot
ぞ。
at the Invitational, and it potentially cost
いや、
them
マ
ね
ジ絶対緊張するやろな、これ。
あれなのかパフォーマンスとかできるあれタイミングねえな。
So I think that
いや、
they're
グ
going
ータ
to
ッ
be
チも
sticking to their guns and going
グータッ
Kenjutsu
チ？
crossing and potentially going to be coming out on top in day 1.
There are so many big names. We have to continue the conversation. Miro and Cooper now kind of focusing in on NA. Miro just ridiculously decorated.
Yeah, a really decorated player in the NA region. Won so
He
many
didn't step up like-
FNCS titles, paired up with a less experienced player. And this is a really nice story
Miro
because you
ってさ、
have the experience of Miro. He's
何やったっ
actually
け？
not IGLing this
ハットの
year.
人
It's
やったっ
actually
け？
Cooper that takes
ハットの
that
人。
role. And he's actually saying, you know what? I'll take the reins. I'll use your experience when it comes to fragging because Miro's just one of the best in the world at that. And of course, he can lead the way, lead the tarps, and make sure they make their way to endgame. This is one of those duos that I'm really excited to see how they perform on LAN because both of them are very talented, but together we
Yeah,
get to
tattoo
see
show.
them in this stage.
No,
That's
but we did see them perform incredibly well in Major 2, getting a second place finish. And I think Rumble Ruins is a great POI for them, being in the center, being able to handle rotations, which seems to be a little bit of an issue for them in earlier seasons. So
口がすごいね、もう。
Miro as you were saying, an incredible player, a 5-time FNCS champ. However, most of those wins were with his old duo mate Bugha.
Absolutely. Well, we have one group of players.
確かにブーが3周目やったっけ、通った。
Arena, welcome them. This is your qualified players from Major number 3. And as we all know, Fortnite is
Muki Papa. MK Papa.
You never really know what you are going to get, but guess what? This team, these players have to go against these
メジャー3の1位やから、あちゃうわ。EU 推進やから。かっ
ビコ。
こよ、ビコ。
あ、そっか、ドックとかは明日なのか。
ボビー。お、ブーゴ。
お、ボビーだ。
こっち見てない、こっち見てない。
ちょっと待って。
待って、もうちょい映して、もうちょい映して。
なんで戦利出すムキムキパパ。
ムキムキパパ。ムキムキパパ。かっこよ。長袖なんや。
あ、ダンス踊ってる。待って。
カナダ。
あ、まだ来たけど、戦利出すよ。一番後ろ？
うわ、カナダかっこよ。
だって戦利出す一番後ろ。
いや、センディダスも行った説あるな。
あ、いて。来た。
あ、来た。
もう終わった。
せーぐい。
うわ、知らねえ。
ゲームパパ MM 一番後ろの席やねんけど。
紹介誰がされんのかな。
名前変やからゲームパパワンチャンあるけどな。
名前で？でも髪ついてた初段かぶってるから紹介されないかな。
The upper bracket all facing off today. You can feel it. The atmosphere is electric. It's not just this amazing crowd. It is every single one of these players. They all know what they have to do. Top 25.
うわ、マジで頑張れ、ムキンパパ。
Yeah, this is it. This is our lobby.
結構ワンいけるくない？
ミニバスバス停上フリーでしょ。普通に
強くない？めっちゃ
よく上位取れる。
ブーガーやな、これは。さすがに。
No,
not really.
Never. I mean, Bugha and Threats, I love this
Yeah,
duo here.
Bugha
obviously having the history and the knowledge with Threats.
ドクターショーン・マーフィーね。
Some of the
こ
most
こまでは。
insane aim in the game. Having these two powerhouses
いや、わからん、それが。
definitely
かっこいいな、もう
And
画面見てないね、
the
後ろ
second
の
is。that they're landing Sanguine Suites, one of the new POIs, where they're gonna have those two
何回目の世界大会だっ
and
て
it
感
has
じだな。
absolutely
確かに
insane
もう当たり前の世界大会やな。
ammo and loot. So even though they're going to be contested by Nutty, I don't think that's going to be too much of a concern for them.
Yeah, and I was speaking to Threats yesterday. I was saying, how are you going to approach that Osborne? He said, mate, there's so much loot at this drop spot. We're not too concerned about fighting each other Osborne, but we want that vault. They're going to be going for that vault every single game, so we'll see how it goes for them.
So insane. More duos to talk about. Iamzo and Rise, front runners from NA, a duo that all of us just expect such
似てないなんかめっちゃ。
Now the question becomes, how do they perform on land?
Yeah, the Canadian duo here, a lot of people had a lot of expectations.
533で3位やから、アジアの1位か。
in NA at that time. Didn't quite live up to that first place, but still managed to get a third place overall. Lots and lots of hype around this team. We haven't
やばいな、533でギリギリやで、世界大会。
またなんさっきのでも、あ、これ、ガルか、グラファのポイントか。さっき700ポイントいなかった。
ベノでしょ。
I mean, you're talking about third place in Major 3, but I don't think
ゴーレンビグル
that's
したも
the
ん。
full picture because in Major 1, they also got a third place. In Major 2, their worst performance was 4th. They have the best placement between all three majors than anyone else here. And they're going to be landing in the gas station, which is a great split POI. So I think they might be the kings of NA for today.
What about the kings of OCE? Could that be Worthy and Alex? I had an opportunity to meet Worthy, such a just a sweet guy.
Oh,
but Alex is
Alex,
widely regarded as the best player in OCE.
Oceania?
Yeah, 100%. Such a recognizable character in the OCE scene as well. And these guys definitely pack up.
656で4位じゃね？
Major 3 grand
やばない？
Alex on his own had more eliminations than 33 teams had eliminations. So he as a solo is outperforming some.
オセアニアアジアより枠あんの？ 4位でいけんの？
Because that is just showing how good these guys can be when they're on this big stage, when they're in those grand finals. They do not crumble under pressure.
I mean, I think that incredible power is showcasing also in Majors 1 and 2. He placed 5th and 3rd, but just him because this duo formed in Major 3. They might be actually the newest duo that we're going to be seeing compete here today. And they're going to be landing near that creaky compound where there are so many teams landing there. It's going to be interesting to say the least.
To say the least, indeed. Now, of course, we only have 5 games here today. Pressure is on. With less games, you cannot make a mistake. How much does even just this going down to 5 games change everything?
It changes everything if you are contested. If you lose off spawn, that's a 5th of your games gone, where previously it was a little bit less than that. So you have to make the games count that you are contested off spawn. We talked about Thomas HD, Ages and Canada's earlier. If those guys don't have a good game, they make it off spawn, there's no guarantees that you'll make the next one off spawn, so you have to make it count.
And we always talk about, you know, maybe they're day 1 team, a day 2 team, they're going to have an opportunity after day 1 to bot review and look. They're not going to have that opportunity. No. Essentially, these are like 3 separate tournaments each day. So these teams are going to have to do everything they can that day to get in that top 25 spot.
Yeah, I think when I think about more of these duos that we're going to see, right, Tayson and Murstache, another duo that kind of just jumps to the front of my mind. Tayson, I mean, if you asked any EU player... You just said the name Tayson, they'd be like, yep, I'm scared, I'm good, leave me alone. But also now paired up with Murstache. Where are these guys landing? What can we expect from them?
I mean, Tayson widely regarded as the GOAT. However, the big however, okay, he's yet to do it on land. He's yet to do it on this massive stage. So a lot of people say he's the online GOAT, which I agree with, 100%. He's won so many FNCS across different gamers, different chapters, whatever the meta, he is on top. But what a perfect time, what a perfect storyline for Tayson Murstache to finally found Tayson as an honest in-person winner, not just online.
Yeah, and we're talking about Tayson, but Murstache is also an incredible player in his own right. But there is a thing such as tournament jitters, and Tayson definitely seems to have an issue with that, being in front of all of these people.
アルバーキ頑張れ出ないですね。
On
アルバーキさんは。
stage is a little bit different
アクさん応援して
than
ますん
playing
で
at。home in front of your own setup and everything. But I think with the right preparation, they've had a lot of opportunity to practice leading up into this. Then maybe he can finally be the land goat we know he can be.
But how much of that, you kind of talk about being here in front of the crowd, even that one mistake, how much could that affect those mentals, right, Kelly? Because it's easy to say at home, I made a mistake, I'm out, okay, let's get up, walk around, whatever. This is so very different.
I think it depends
Go
on
live
the
消
player
せば
on
ワ
the
ン
team.
チャン。
When you have someone like Kanata, which if you guys haven't had the opportunity to watch the Major 3 playback of him, where essentially the entire time he's just screaming, Agers! Agers! I think having mentality like that, even when you're down, is such a big deal. And you'll hear a lot of these players, what's a big part of your success in winning this major, that major. And a lot of them will say keeping their head in the game, even when going down, just talking about what went wrong and moving on from it instead of dwelling on it.
So different. It's so different being in this
また消えた？
You're at a different desk, everything's a little bit different, a chair potentially is a little bit different as well. So everything is almost alien to you from what you're used to. You can't just get up after a bad game, go have a cup of tea and relax in the living room. You have to stay in this area, and that's what can add to the pressure as well. You're in this area, you're in this zone, it's now or never, and they do it.
I wanted to ask a question here. So obviously the bottom 25 move on to tomorrow, okay?
Yeah.
So if you're one of these duos that find yourself in the
今日は
bottom
ね、
25, let's say they
みんなが強いからね、視聴者がバグって
is
るから
that
ね。
good? Is that bad going into lower bracket? Is there some kind of advantage or disadvantage to doing so?
日本全
As
部
I said earlier, I
わか
don't
ったわかった
think you
こう
should
し
be
て
aiming or hoping that you get in the bottom, the lower bracket. It's not something that
Right.
you want. You want to be getting into the grand finals today, now. But if you do end up finding yourself in there,
一回閉じて
as I said earlier, I don't think you should be aiming or hoping that you get in the bottom, the lower bracket. It's not something that you want. You want to be getting into the grand finals today, now. But if you do end up finding yourself in there, things could definitely change. I think tonight's going to be a very important night for these teams that are going to find themselves in that lower bracket, because there will be 25. And I think that's going to play a big part, because then they'll start to figure out where we're going to be dropping, where's our blue path going to go. You know?
I mean, it's time. Now, as we prepare for this first game, you guys find your seats on the battle bus. I want to hear from our casters to prep us before game number 1. Thank you so very much, Zeke. And yeah, find your seat on the battle bus, find your seat in the arena here, because we are looking at a very contentious drop map. And then we focus in on a couple of those, you know, head-to-head face-offs. So there are so many more battles happening
い
today.
やジャイモンさんマジでかっこよかったな
example we were just discussing was the
え
whole
ジャンボさん入場して見てねえんだけど、最悪。
見てない始まったのに
thought because the battle bus has gone on.
うん
And we're ready to
始まっ
watch
た
game 1.
始まった。
Now we get to jump off and really take to the world and see who will be able to put up all of the numbers that they are claiming that they are worth. Let's watch it. We get to start things off here, of course, with
うわ、マジ緊張する。マジこんなん緊張するわ。こいつらからしたら。
これって、あ、これも競技か、競技か。
え、固まってんけど。
やばいやばい。
どうしんの？
そんな結構ガチガチでも
う。カード。
ごめんごめん。あっつ。
マリオ、
やばいやばい。マジ緊張するぞこれ。
マジ緊張する。
あ、でも待って、でも有利かと思いきや。
いや、
うわ、これ。いや、
待って。ガチ緊張する。ガチ緊張する。
でもなんかこれ、嫌な感じする。
あ、マリオ勝った。
いや、いけるな。
やったわよ。
サイフォン歩くね、サイフォン歩くね。違う？
なんじゃね？
ない。サイフォンあるらしい、サイフォンあるらしい、サイフォンあるらしい。
サイフォン？あ、サイフォンあんのか。あ、そうや。
サイフォンあるわ。マリブか勝つん強い。
かっこよこいつ。頭良すぎん今の上行くん。
なので、オーマイガーって
うわ、あそこ50-50な、マジなんか嫌やな、俺やったら。12試合50-50なんでしょ。
確かいけないんじゃん、普通に。ブ
ーガ死んでね？いや、味方やられてる。No ってめっちゃ叫んでるらしいんだけど。
An infiltrator pump might be able to buy him a little bit of time as well, but seems as though Booga is investing fully into weaponry here, understanding he can't take that extra second to reload. He doesn't have a teammate to fall back on just in case. And as for Nutty and Abzer, they seem to be just taking their time, actually prioritizing.
広すぎるだろこのショットは絶対。広すぎ。さすがにこれは余裕でいける。
So far, so good. Speaking about other things happening, though, I did see Baka, who contested up towards the northern portion of the map, get an exchange off there too. And here we get to take a look.
左下くつろいでんのに。左下めっちゃくつろいでんのに。どうやってんのこいつ。
1試合目戦で使ったらしいよ。1試合目戦で使ったらしいよ。
マジ？やばない？次パーク出てる右に。
誰が俺もサルジェ全員見出しが。サルジェル選手。
CDS 買ったん？
じゃあなサルジェポップコーンさんバイバイ。
As is, but has plenty of shields to work back with.
Oh yeah, we all know that this here is definitely a very popular exchange. Teams will often fight it out as Slappy Shore is one of the major POs that will just yield so much of course that you can play off of and bounce back from. Meanwhile, we're stashed down low, continuing to get his material together. We're gonna jump on over to Vegas.
左下誰？左下誰？データさんちょっと変わった？勝ったんすごくね、神セッティ。
マジですごい。ベイダステインナイス。今じゃん。
これどこあたりやったっけ？
メガシ左上じゃね？アジアと一緒で。
めちゃめちゃ映されるやん、アジア。なんで？
センディダスのショット見たかったな。
それの
Getting tags in the distance too. Surge, of course, is going to be one of the equally most important things to worry about. Meanwhile, in the feed, Acorn has himself an elimination too. These are all of the contested battles happening here.
マリルカたちが戦ってる途中に終わってるわもう。
aware of teams that were going to land on them are definitely fighting for it.
いやでも確かにカナダとマリブガの戦いは熱かったよな。
熱いね、マジ熱い。技ありすぎ。2日目。かぶんのかな、その後。
ワンチャンカナダでもあれやけどな。予選落ちるけどな。
いやマジで落ちちゃう。
ずっと負けてたら。
Nothing just yet, so not really getting greedy with the opportunity put in front of them, but instead banking that elimination. Remember, this is 5 games, right?
え、3日目6試合
and all of a sudden you're really set up
決勝
for potential. Just seal.
いや、知らん、ちょっと待って、調べよ
The goal is get to grand finals.
I mean, just think about the amount of sheer splashes that Acorn just had available for himself. 12 splashes to work with is a huge amount. They can definitely take their time in terms of finding those ideal movements in case they need a little bit of that slap effect to work with. Thoric, meanwhile, continuing to seek out a chest that might be left over, splitting there with bolts. Seems to have an idea.
え、サージウィークのやつ不利とかあんま関係ない？もしかして。サージウィークのやつ不利とかあんま関係ない？
ね、サージ不利って。
サージウィークから突破した人不利ってとか。
あ、2日目の人ってこと？
うん。
いや、まあ1日目25位が抜けれるからそれに参加できないんじゃない？あ、その初動の話？初動が不利かとかっていうこと？
いや違う、普通にポイント的に。
あ、ない、だから。
ないよな。え、あ、そうなんだ。
ないよ。ないよ。だから今日50パーティー中、上位25位が。
わかった、宮古
だから分かってなかったじゃん。で、明日25パーティーが合流して、
で、決勝ね、3日目で。
そうね。だから2日目で、2日目も25位。
宮古君ありがとう。
いいよ。正直、今1個前のやつってあいつらを応援してんだよな。ボルツ。ボルトですか、ボルト。
いや、ビーコも頑張ってほしいな。
ちゃんと初動分け合えて。
左下が全部合ってないっす。
ね。これテイソンっすか？
テイソンっぽい。
ずっと合ってない。
えぐい立ち回りじゃね、これ。
遠すぎ。誰やろ、これ。あー、きつい。ムカつくない今。
左下すら出なくなったし。家から参加ちゃんこいつら。
完成。あ、やば
い、完成ぐい。
なんでなんか結構人減ってね。なんかもう90何人とかいるんじゃないんや。
あ、もう蹴られるわけで蹴られた。
やり直しになるのかな、さすがにそれは。
え、これジャイモンさん？え、ジャイモンさんに見えへんねんけど、左下。こ
れジャイモンさんなの？
ジャイモンさんや。
別にプレイヤーと左下合わせてよ。
それはそう。
マジで合わせてよ。
え、応援組がやばない今回。
すげえ。
気合入りすぎやろ。
これ大丈夫なの？
え、パパ。頑張れ。頑張れ。
あれ誰これ？ハーズ。
マジ勝てる。
めっちゃ有利。
え、これパパ一人じゃね？うわ、白も死んでるわ。
詰められてんのか？言うて武士から。うわ、ひどし。
回復いっぱいあるけどな。
ID これにしたん？
だから世界大会要所。
あ、アカウントは違うのか。うわ、これ来るな。
コマンビズしたら熱いぞ。うわ、惜しい。
NT。
うわ、かわいそう。
なんで12ポイントも入ってんの俺。
1キル4ポイントでしょ。
いや、だって12ポイントやで。
だから2人やってたやん、もうゲッポパやる前に。
3キル目、
この音音楽ずっと流れてるのやばい。
バグやん。誰やこれ。あ、ラピット。めっちゃアジア勢とあれ、デビューしてくれた人か。
クイちゃん、ブッシーよやばっ。ブッシーやばくね。
ちょっとあれやな。なんか、あれが知りたい、クラッシュパッドの使い方とか。デカ6。
いや、強いな、デカ6。
スナイパー使ってるんだよな。
え
ネット。
うわ
ああ。草じゃんま。
初見でスイッチで頑張ってます。
あ、待って。
何があった今。
普通に今、AR 撃たれてるところを、スナイパーで撃ち返そうとして、メンタル強かったけど。
世界大会日本人誰が出るんですか今、スペインさんとデイダスさんと、ムキムキパパとシェロンと、ボビーさんとラークさんと、あと、ユマさんとジャイモンさんと、あと、サージウィークで、ラルーさんとドックさんと、ウィッキーさんと、あと、サージウィーク、ザジさんとエムさんです。
Bonus damage always a plus on that first shot, and the same thing as well for the first shotgun augment that he had rocking there with that gold sharp dude. So you can definitely expect him.
なんでさ、ベノとかクイジーってもうさ、あの時点でさ、ブッシュあんなんのやろ。もう普通って多分世界大会でこんなんだよ。
そう、絶対そう。しかも、わかんない、剣術って初動強いんやな。
いやー、まあフリーなら強いか。でもさ、剣術からあそこまで移動できてるってすごない普通に。
だからトイレ行ってるもんな。
しかも、あのブッシュってやばすぎやろ。
でも一緒にあんちょっと寄ってる
マジステインさんとデイダスさんやばくないこれ。
やばい。いや、決勝いけるかなマジで、全部勝ってほしいな。とりあえず予選突破してほしいな、みんな。アジアで。てか 12試合もあんの？あれでしょ予選カットだよ。今日6試合一緒で、明日も6試合か。
そう、決勝何試合なの？
決勝は
Xbox 直撮でパンダさん初見です、こんばんは。こんばんは。
今日5試合だ。
今日5試合なの？
競技のなんか見てるけど、わかんない。見た目。
マリブが写真を撮ってる。
マジ
完成ゲイ。
さすがに対面とかしないもん。
ワンチャンワンパ来るな、でも。
早もがしかそうだ。
ワンパ近いけどな。キッズサージ。180。嘘、229です。
どこです？
Looking to actually hurt them will have a chance to catch up in time as
むしろバカきついやん。
でも空島取れたんやばくね？今何アンチ ?4 か。6までいけんじゃね？アンチがいたけど。ミスやばいし。空島取ってこの完成はやばいぞ。こいつ映すとな、BGM 流れるんだよ。
なんか、あそこ取ってるやつはそのまま。そこやば。
いいよ。
たまたまなんかこれ。
やばいやばい、死ぬ死ぬ。ペポさんやってる。
マジで
ペポさん一人やってそう。
Way to the safe zone so far. I wouldn't be surprised if storm sickness turns on at this point for them.
うわ、ブーが一人起こしたんか。起こしたけどやれるんだ。
リーダー
熱っ。武士なんやろ。よくね。いやいや、めっちゃよくね。
めっちゃよかった。
476以上やね。
すっげえ、どうやった
やばっ。
でもこれ当てれなそう。あ、でもこれ予想取ってんじゃないワンちゃん。
いや、ワンチャン取ってる。デダスさんの。来た。
すっげえ。
すごっ。
なってる。
いや、多分デイダスさんがレーザーしたんや。
今の割れた音か。あ、めっちゃ危ね
え、これタイムした？え、これ死ぬくね？
うわ。あれ引いてね。あれ引いたんだ。
引いた武士な。やば。
やばいな。
ザゴさんとペボさんたち勝ちそうですよ。確かに。
あ、やばい、ベガ。
ザゴさんたち勝ってもおかしくないと思う。
あ、これベガきつい。これ
アジア勢とめっちゃゾーンズしてくれたブラジル人や。
怖っ。ラグそう、絶対で。
うわ、ザゴさん死んだ。ワンチャン起こせる。
なんかラグすぎ。けどでもサージじゃないんだよ。
そうラギー。やばい、もう観客やばい。全員ブーガのファミリーすぎ。
ガチファン。あ、トーマスキルしてる。
まだザゴさん核入ってないちなみに。ワンチャン起こせた説ある。ユマジャイも音沙汰ないけど
めっちゃいい人間なの。
生きてるっぽいけどな。ちなみにザゴさん多分起こせたぞこれ。
あ、マリガトマスまだ雪島いた。い
やー、あれ6まで行くっしょ。これジャンパ飛んで左から余裕でいけるくね、空島から。
いける。長いから多分大丈夫やな。
オラスさん、初見さんこんばんは。そう、全員の M マジ化け物。うわ、オキス。
オキス映った？
オキス死んだけど。ラクティスやってる、ピング。そっか、ラクさんもいんのか、まだ。
そうね。
マジやばいだ。
アレックスすぎるスキンが、こいつら。
このバックブリングマジ買ったからな、俺。1500円のスキンがあって。
これ俺さすがにないわ。無理やわ。うわ、マリブがやってんな。マジ空島強いな。
いや、さすがに。
マジフリー移動しよう、これ。キング一人やってるけど、どういうことだよ。そう、マジ全員 MA から。多分一緒にしてんと思う。ブーが生きてるけど、これきついな、マジで。ザゴーさんたちどうなったんやろ。N 高等学校さん初見です、こんばんは。すいません、なんか。ブーリルさん出てほしかった。確かに。ブーリルさんね。アジアの顔やし。ジャイもされてる。やれてる、上で。
いいんじゃね？アンチだってメガシアンチだから。
これジャイもされてる。
本当だ。
核入れてる、核。
映してほしいんだけど。
こっちらへん。今ジャイも。熱っ。ルネさん、創作高等学さんこんばんは。ザゴーさん、ミリムさん見たかった。確かにね。喧嘩しちゃったから。
てか、鮮やかやな、コメント欄の。 アイコンが。あ、クイジ、ブッシュが強す
ロ
ぎる。
ケットラブで移動したら溶かされそう。案外でもちょっとラグいからありやけどな、これロケットラブ。でもそこまで持っていけんのかな。みんなクリアパやな。
ブッシュが王者すぎるクイジ。
マジで王者や。ザゴさん生きてるやん、やっぱ。
ボビーラ
落とせんねん。
もいる。
みんなブッシュよくね、多分。いや、ブッシュってか。
ブーがようここまで来れたな。でも、きつい、これは。順
これであ、やばい、ボビーラック、グルーされるかも。ステイさん死んだ。
あ、ステイさん死んだ。待って、
ラクさん死んだ。ラクさん死んだ。
待って、めっちゃいいとこにブーが
うわー。あ、ボビーさん死んだ。あ、ステイさんもかけ入れられた。ユマジャイモン、頼む。ユマジャイモン頼む。
あ、ユマジャイモン左やん。
うわ、ザゴさん死んだ。あ、
ペッポさん。
ああ、どんどん。頑張れ、ユマジャイモン。マジで完成がいい。オシディオは無限パパシェロンです。あとユマジャイモン。
feasible for them from this position. It seems as though that's a little bit more control over there with likes of Thomas Malabuka maybe looking to work their way up. Also saw Kylie doing a decent job, decent hill position there.
やばい。
いつもこうなるこれ。資材150。またねが検知しません。
150。資材。
150枚。
やば。こいつらやば。ただ最終アンチ活躍しそう。He's down and out on high ground as well. Trulex and Chicho set up for success. So we're already looking at a very big game. Remember, with just 5 in front of us, a huge performance is really all it takes to かそっちに降りそうだからミシック選択いいかも。確かに。でも刀ないからな。むずいなこれは。
待って、ユマジャイモン探して。あ、いたいたいた、ど真ん中ぐらい。あ、デイダスさんは空で生きてるよ。
デイダスさん生きてんな。
てか、この間、ワンパーティーも減ってない。あ、いない。
They might try to work their way up through that secondary height layer, but as far as Mustache and Payson are concerned, they know they've got teams surrounding them every which way. Right now, it's about picking the right direction to go, and a lot of these teams
大丈夫、サジユマジャイモン。
some of the water that's just on
ボコってないなんか。
the zone.
王者すぎ。
やばいな。
物資が。大丈夫、事故ってない、大丈夫、大丈夫。
ビーベナはもう、
ああ、終わった。ああ、ジャイモンさん死んだ。
ガチやん。
世界か、これが。
肺から行くん、ここで。やば。相変わらず。
そこに落とすん、コアスラップ。世界大会でいけなかったらやばそう。いや、マジで。やばいやろ。キング、フル HP やけど0バツ。
ジャイモンさん、今、あ、デイダス死んだ。22ぐらい。
ジャイモンさんたちか、一番あれ。
お前が、お前が。今の今さ行ってね、多分。
それ取りに行くん、こいつ。おお、あ、ユマさん死んじゃった。全員死んだ。
全員死んだね。あ、ベンダー。
クイジアンビーノ。難しいよな。マリブがテイソン。マリブか。やばいっしょ。
もう、どうなん ?25 位って5試合でしょ。だから普通に1試合ビクロイして100ポイントぐらいいったらさ、もう、ほぼいけんじゃん。あ、入る。
シャレットあるんですか？ あったら初動有利そう。タレットああ、なんか
あれね。
ポケットタレットありますね。テイス止めるそっちやんこれ。マリブが絶対伸ばしてるっしょ。
いや、あ、いい、ジャイマさんいましたんだよ。なんだ、バグってる、バグじゃね。なんか、さすがやな、上位勢が。海外の。
ラグすぎて、なんか、リプレイも終わってる。なんか。
マリブが死んでる。
え、マリブが死んだ。
枠上の。
テイソンが。サイフォンあんのか。
サイフォンやっぱあんの。
リベンジですか。
あ、これ差つくね。
いや、無理、つくね。
あ、リート。
リート
ミス日本ある。2211。あ、
211。
そうだ。誰やってよ。
ビノじゃね。
ベノ死んでね。
ベノ生きてるわ。
あ、じゃあベノじゃねえ。あ、ディオこいつらよ。
誰だっけこれ。
ストローキ。でもこれ勝手にもう。
ホーリーオーマイゴッシュ
ベノ
すぎ。
さすがすぎる。ガチかっこいいんだけど。おーじゃー。
うわ、かっこよ。あ、ベノ来た。
ベノ
のお姉ちゃん、ベノのお姉ちゃんです。
似すぎ。
リモート爆弾あるんですか。あ、リモート爆弾ないっすね。世界大会。
クイージかっけ。
フレンドナイトです。あ、フレンドはなんか参加型の時になりましょう。
Every year, we always got to win first game. We always got to have some victory royales, and we just got to do what we got to do.
Is it nice to be back in the same space on land together? Does that help in game?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, from last year, we came here to finish the story, and we'll see how it goes.
マジで痩せたな。
How are you making season 4 work for you?
I think we're well prepared. We try to hide everything that we could, and we'll see in the finals.
ハイゲラ
final fight then.
とかまだあるんだ。
It was an EU number. You know your opponents quite well.
逆にじゃね。
Why do you think you were able to?
そうね、もうロケットないしね。やっぱ取ったらいいな、決勝。
And Malibu come up on high, and we put them down, thanks to Queasy and myself. And then I clutched out as a solo. It's just standard.
学校でシュンティアンさんめっちゃ人気です。嘘つけ。それはないっしょ。
こんな学校があるんか。
そんなことある。めっちゃ嬉しいけど、それだったら。
I think we came in on our villain arc. And because we came second, we
その
want
プ
to
ロ
show the rivalry is over.
But it's not.
クイージマジイケメンや
You'll
な。
see. I'm looking at them now.
Well, you guys get your eyes on each other and get ready to
それガチで羨ましい。出て。
as we head back to the desk. Congratulations, Queasy and Vino.
Here we go. Global Championships kicks off.
この
And what do we expect?
悪い流れに
Not
そのまま
quite
い
this.
かんといてほ
I
しいな、みん
wasn't
な。
sure if it was going to be Queasy and Beno. To be
Japanese,
honest,
切り
there
替え
were
てほ
so
しい、
many
みんな。
names, right? But of course, Queasy and Beno say Zeke. Hold on a minute.
ステージゼロ応援しました。
I love that he
本当っ
kinda
すか。
calls
あり
out,
がとうございます。
We're on our villain arc. I agree. I think these guys want and have so much to prove. In the year they've had, right? That second place to us is
ク
amazing.
ールやな、ビッグした時もなんか。
てかベノが生き残ってんねんな。すごいな。
Now they're
よく勝ったな、あれ。
stronger than ever.
いやマジでこいつら主人公やって。
Yeah, these guys are winners, right? They see second as the same as 50th. It doesn't matter to them.
あー、かっこいいハイグラ。
is taking that crown because they want it to be them. They want to make sure they can do it, and I really like the way
マ
they
ジ
played
かっ
that.
けえなこいつら。
Beautiful stuff from them. Just
待ってこのモチベがマジで続いてほしい。できれば。
They got to that front side of zone, cranked up, actually fell down at the beginning of that end game, which kind of threw them off a little bit, but no, they're used to that sort of situation, and that's exactly what they do best.
I do think that the zone pulled a little bit in their favor, but by zone 3,
Mm.
they not only had a gold twin mag,
これで変わったんか。
a
や
gold
ば。
sharp tooth as well,
でも言うてもともとブッシュ
six
バグやん。
smash pads, but also had 2 mythic slurps. They were set
これ
for
崩したら誰やったんやろ。
success from the get-go.
マリブカかな。
We see them, of course, getting shot right
え、
there.
マリブカこれで死んだんや。やば。
あ、おわいそう。だってサイフォンあるからアンチが取りに行きます。
やば。え、これ勝ったんべの。
勝ったんやな。
え、こっから勝つ逆で試合する。
ブッシュが。
おお。
チャンピオン。当てに行かないやばいし。
やば。
リード2位やん。
日本人で世界一になった人いるんですが、いやまだいないんですよ。
Yeah, I mean,
うんちかすさんこんばんは。
スクシ
ョタイムください。VTuber じゃないっす。すいません。
Is they're setting the other up. So it's like, even if one of us falls, it doesn't matter. I've set you up. You have everything you need. Go make something happen. Now, in this situation, Venom's like, got you right where I want you.
Yeah, the players that they were going up against too were incredible players, and so still to be able to do that as a solo player like Vino just did just shows how confident and calm he can be, but also very excited too. But I mean, if we're talking about Queasy and Vino, we gotta talk about the other side of the coin, right? Seti and Cammy going down early.
あと12分後ですね、皆さん。
Yeah, really rough start for those guys. A start they definitely wouldn't have wanted. I was saying at the beginning of the show they were practicing their drop spots. They were looking good, but things can change.
出てー、やりてー、俺も。
Environments can change. You never know what can happen. And of course, when you're fighting against a team that isn't on your home region, usually things can be different. Teams have different places.
確かにまあ堅実よりやったけど、アンチは。
If there's anything we know about Cammy and Seti when they do make it off spawn, I'm sure
今シーズンそっちが多いんだよな、マジで。
absolutely fine. It's just getting to
確か
that
に
end
下アン
game
チ多いよ
that
な。
might be a problem.
Yeah, and this is just the first game, right? Obviously, with only
や
5,
ば。
which is usually
アグラ強いですね。めっちゃ強い
we
ですね、
don't
ア
want to
グ
be
ラ。
making mistakes like this, but they still have
だ
four
からちょっ
more
と追加でクイー
to
ンも
make
持ってくる。
something happen. Now, of course, a couple other duels wanted to
すいません、
highlight for
離
you
席しま
guys.
す。
Thomas HD and Malabuka. Again, like, as we talk about names, you're just going to be like, yeah, nah, I forgot about them. I mean, I know they're here, and the top 8 is great, but looking to perform here as well, and a pretty good showing in game number 1.
Yeah, not a bad showing at all. I mean, we saw it in game in the first little off-spawn battle right there. What a time to do it. What a way to kick off the weekend, right? Thomas HD manages to win out off-spawn. It wasn't even Thomas, actually, that clutched it up. It was, of course, Malabuka who managed to pick up this assault rifle off-spawn. Really, really great for him, actually, because he just found that little bit of high ground there at the end. I really like the way he used the reboot ban to block as much shots as possible. And then this little hut, managing to find that high ground and then finally take out Canada. What a start for this duo. And we know how the rest of the game went. Solid game for them as well.
Although it did go down to a 1v1, and I think a lot of people may have been expecting Malabuka and Thomas HD kind of just take it so soundedly, and I think that they might be taking it a little bit easier in these next few games just because of how close it was. You saw Kanata trying to grab height right there, and you were right that Malabuka was able to use that reboot ban to his advantage. But if Kanata just got a little bit
でもハイグラはロケット辛いよ、確かにね。
could have been a bit of a
で
disaster.
もなんかね、みんな
Can't forget, of course, they
ロケットの
had
枠
that
回復とかにしてるか
Rift
ら
Island as well. Of
あれ
course,
か
it
も
was
ね
a south playing zone. They know where the spawns are just
案外
outside
刺さる
of
か
that
もね
racetrack area. There's not actually too
ハイ
many
グラは
spawns down in that sort of southeast area, so they were actually able to kind of predict
プ
where
レ
it
イ
was
で
going
見
to
れ
be,
る
and
の
they
おもろい
managed to
ん
get
だ
on there uncontested completely. Nobody wanted to go for it.
やばー、
First
ステイン
game
デ
of
ーダ
an
スでも
in-person
強いな。
event. Who has the guts to go for the island? It's these guys.
Yeah, and of course, the crowd did lose it when we saw that happen, but here we go. A look at our standings. Now, please remember,
さすがに10位以内は
another
ない
4
か。
games to go, but right now, as it stands, Queasy and Veno, after that victory out, and the 7 eliminations, they
上位が
found that number 1
知っ
spot.
てる人す
But
ぎ。
look at a couple of names here,
さすがに。
right? Rate and Ritual. I mean, 76 points off of the back of 5 eliminations as well. There's no double digits yet in this top 10, but to just kind of see this list of names,
4位知らんけど、それ以外
this is wild.
リート2位な
Another
熱
team there as well. Kylie Fosroki in third
Hammerback.
place. They actually land sort of towards the area in that sort of steamy strings area, so the zone was definitely in their favor. But in a 5-game format, if you can get that first zone under your belt, get those points on the board early, that's a really, really great start for those guys. Because remember, they qualified through the last chance major, so they want to try and put on. They didn't qualify. Sorry, major number 3. That's tomorrow. They qualified to major number 3, so they left it to the last. That's one of those teams that want to get off to a good start. start here to try and boost their confidence and make sure that they can make it through to Sunday.
Man, I do want to give some shout outs to Reet and Ritual. I know I always take the chance when I get the opportunity to.
Yeah, you go ahead.
But
That's
they
why
had,
I said it.
I mean, Reet has just evolved as a player for the last 2 years. He used to be the WP king to the point where you couldn't really contain him. But around zone 3 or 4, you saw him play patiently. They towered up pretty early on, able to get those storm surge tags. And it wasn't until towards the end game that Reed really popped off and grabbed a few eliminations. And really a placement player, and to see him get that second place spot or third place and eliminations as well. I mean, I'm just proud to see him evolve as a player.
It was really difficult down those lower lanes. Remember that end zone? It was all over.
そうね。ロケットもちらほらいたし。
Swimming through.
悔しかったが多かったもん。
悔しかったが多かった。
Of course, he ended up getting taken out, but those are the difficult times. If you don't have those materials,
ロケットも
you don't
確かにい
have
たな。
those refreshes. When you have the fragging power of Re, that's where those refreshes come into play because you need those builds in that water zone.
Some would say those Reet refreshes. Anyway, let's go back to the leaderboard. Let's talk about more. Just Zeke things. Another duo we kind of highlighted at the start of the show in 6th place.
93ポイントか。
And Acorn, right? They did manage to find themselves the 5 eliminations, but they're maybe lacking a little bit on those placements. Now, I feel like for me, rather than kind of like go through all these duos and kind of talk about everybody, I kind of want to talk about what we saw in that game. Mad congested, right? There was, toward the end game, almost no one had materials, right? Everyone's doing the same thing. We are trying to go on the defensive.
Well, that's due to the fact that this is a low mobility meta. Besides the rocket ramp, so these players
EU の25位のリオキャのボーダーが6試合で116ポイント。
They're going to have to protect themselves as they rotate all the way to that far southeastern side. So it does kind of benefit the teams that are closer there.
もうあと4試合もあれば余裕だ。
A few players using rocket rams in there, or at least having them in their loadout just in case. But this is going to be a difficult start in Major 3, so a lot of these players are already used to it, but still, utilizing your mats when you can is definitely going to be a big part.
めっちゃ喧嘩してんねんけど。
Acorn and Cold in 6th place. They made it to that end game because of their off spawn. And initially, we were thinking, right, these guys are contesting Pink and Vico. That's been the storyline for the whole time. But it seems like they actually switched drop here, and they actually ended up going towards iDrop and Mappy in that sort of central area where all those caravans are. They actually switched their drop. Last minute, they thought, yeah, let's just try and land on this team, and it worked out for them. So that just shows how those little decisions like that, switching the drop spot at the last moment, can make a big difference.
And it did make a big difference. We saw earlier on in the game that Acorn and Cold had 12 splashes on just one player. And again, using those rotations, that's pretty much one of the only mobility items in the game besides the launch pads and then, of course, the mini crash pads as well. I mean, they definitely seem to have used that change in drop spot, which isn't something we typically see on this caliber, really well. And another team that I want to talk about just by the leaderboard that we saw is Thomas HD and Malabuka. You can see through their placement points that they didn't get that many placement points, but the 15 points from the Rift Island made up the difference.
Those mid-match objectives will make or break some duos. Now, at the start of the show, we talked about Tayson, the online go, looking to make that LAN title kind of all-encompassing, just GOAT status, paired up with Merstash after this game, right? This was a pretty decent start, right? And again, like, we have to kind of be mindful that, remember, there's 6 regions, it's just game 1, there's a lot of jitters. After game 2, what can we see them adapt or change that might make this
俺のコメント欄めっちゃ可愛いねんけどなんか。
めっちゃ可愛い本当に。
折りたためるやつって可愛い。
親のやつなんだね。パソコン持ってるんですけど。
Didn't quite have the builds to make it happen, and that can be the problem. If you're cranking up on that backside of zone, you're expending so many materials, and if you're going up against a great height team like Queasy and Benno, that's where things can get difficult. But a really great start from this duo. Of course, landing at the north side of Slappy Shores, we saw them getting those surge tanks really early. Massive base that they seemingly build every single game they go there.
メレサチ可愛い。なんか。
to that end game, and they just keep that consistency because if they keep
メレサチ可愛いっしょ。
And I think what helped them too is that they were holding second right in that mid ground really well, where a lot of the top teams were kind of fighting for that high ground, or they were in the depths of the water below. So by being aware, situationally aware of where all the teams are and taking that advantageous position in the mid ground,
なんか視聴者参加型の時に
For sure. Now, of course, that
募集するか
crazy
な
moment
フレ
in
ン
the
ドは
victory out was wild. But we have the ability to listen in on the players. So let's relive this moment, but from Vino's perspective.
VC あんの
I got it. Coming up. I'm siphon. I'm rocking, okay? Oh yeah, I'm dead probably. I'm dead. Top four, all duos. Land on, nice. Corner. Nice.
やばこれワンパン
Yeah. 2v2. Or two, one solo and a duo. Top three. We have Madness, play Madness top 2. Play Madness top 2, trust. I'll let you know if he gets knocked. I got him. I knocked him. Yeah. 1v1. You're good.
なんで勝った時の VC は
That's kind of nuts, right? I love that Veno is able to just focus, right? It's just
こ
about
れ
just let me rock my
多
mechanics,
分
right?
かわいいベノ
Tell me where to
これ
look,
さ
tell me
3
what
試合
to
で
do,
さ1回
and
休憩時間多
then
分挟むらしいからさ
Queasy just
うん
so
配信多分
calm,
そこまでじゃん
obviously
普通
there is
に
a bit of
そこま
chaos
で
in the moment, but
さすが
Queasy,
に
listen.
やっぱ終わんの6時とか
Trust, you got this.
That's such a skill as well. I feel like not many people talk about it. When you are down and your teammate is solo clutching like that, the comms that you give are so vital. You can see Queasy just making sure that he is giving the absolute perfect comms, what he needs to know. Maybe he might have missed something. Maybe it's his heals. Maybe it's his materials. But Veno's like, okay, let me cook. Just give me the ingredients that I need.
And part of the reason he cooked there was that rocket ram, using it to go straight up into the air, see where the rest of the remaining lobby is, land down immediately and get that incredible shot. That's why we're seeing them in first place right now. 93 points to start off the day. A pretty decent lead relative to the rest of the lobby here.
And, you know, I don't want to say necessarily bravery, but to use that rock ram in that situation almost is like...
リートはリートめっちゃ強いね今2位やねリート
High risk, high reward, but for him, he makes it work. Here's a look at
うわ
our
ジャイア
top 20
アジア
duos as it stands just after game number
20位にも入ってなくね
1.
まだ
We had highlighted Cooper and Mira, though,
そうね
in
多
there
分
in
入っ
the
た
16th place at the top of the show, as well as Alex and Worthy. Or is there maybe a duo standing on these top 20 that stand out to you guys?
まあ21、22とかがゲーマーさんじゃね
Mega city, so you would maybe expect them to have a little bit of a better game right there.
頑張れジャパン
天空城バレなそう天空城むずいんちゃう
サージがきついな
struggled with that a little bit because of course so many teams are rotating in, but it might be a little bit too late. You almost need to rotate out, get that storm surge, try and get back on that high ground at the right moment. What I've seen from those guys, they're doing that so well previously. Maybe a few spanners in the works have been a little bit more difficult.
あ今あれか
They need to try and find those reflexes. That water zone definitely didn't help either.
I mean, I was looking at the top of that.
全員ロード画面入ってあの人全員ロード画面あいつだけやってる先に
はいや
A good job after game number 1 there. And I know that a lot of people tend to think that these competitions are going to be, you know, oh, EU and then maybe NA.
回復勝負も強そう回復勝負までいったら多分もう勝ちやなそいつ
And it's about making a statement in this first day, right? Remember, first 5, top 25 go on to grand finals on Sunday. So the job's not done, but it's about making those statements. It's about saying, regardless of what we do, if you see us in grand finals, you know what to expect from us.
Yeah, and I think you saw that in the reaction from Queasy and Benno, right? They were hyped, like they were happy. You got to be happy at winning first game of day 1 of the global championships, but
もし
they
さ
weren't too happy. They didn't let their emotions get the better of them. They were very, very cool, calm, collected in that interview, and I think that's absolutely vital for them because they know it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Yeah, and
世界大会の決勝までさ自分の技隠しててさストーム酔いとかない時にやったらどうなんだろう
昔
MK7 that he had there. He was 600 damage above Storm Surge in the middle of the game, and
クレイってどうなった ?FNS で参加停止かなんかだっけ
Okay, so we highlighted some duos. We talked about what we liked. What did we maybe not like out of this first game?
悪用みたいなんでなんか順位入ったけど250入ったけどなくなったみたいな
マジ
じゃあ
I think I want to see less water in the end zone.
なんか日本人の人もリンクスジャムさんみたいな人もさ
回復勝負したらあかんの
昨日あれあったね昨日わかる真ん中のでかい
飛んだら回復するやつ
そうあれの時に あの技やったリンクスのジャムって人が FNCS250 入ったけど、
マジ
So by showcasing if
なく
they
な
can
っ
get
た。
another VR, if it pulls all the way to the northwest, well, that's what makes them champions.
For sure, and I think
いや、これもう始まってるけどね、2試合目の。
いや、
we do an injustice.
待機島が多分クソ長いんやわ、これ。
あ、そういうこと。
Amy and Seti, right? If they had been left alive, how
いや、クイージーの潜在写真と今違いすぎやろ、ガチで。
Who knows? That's the question, right? I mean, these guys,
かっこよ。
Quizzy and Venom are a fantastic duo. They won on high ground, but Cammy and Seti can
めっちゃ筋トレのツイートとか流れてるんだ
play
よ
their way through those mid-ground layers. And of course, sometimes we've seen them. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the show how they're able
来
to
年の海までに
So
と
that's
か
sort of developing
の
throughout
感じなんやろな。
So
来年の
trying
世
to
界大会
build
ま
that
でに
height,
痩せようみ
adding
たいな。
another dynamic, another element to their game.
そういうこと。
So,
フォートナイ
of course,
ト
as you mentioned, they're not necessarily
フォートナイトすぎ。
labeled as a height team necessarily, but they can
そう、
do
まあ
it.
天空城っていうのがちょっと難しいかもな。
I mean,
もうみんな 3G 目光らせてるから上に行くのが多分むずいな。
towards the mid and late game there, and I think by having that rough start, if they did make it survive into the end game, they probably would have stuck to the low ground, and we saw how chaotic that low ground was. So I don't know if they necessarily would have even attempted to go for high ground, especially with the two duos of Queasy and then Thomas HD's going up on high. I think that they, you know, may have not even had that great of an end game if they did make it there.
Okay. So what we're saying is people are fighting over high ground.
Yeah.
We want more of that because
High ground
more
wins games.
fun and that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Quizzy Venom, they won 6 games out of 12 in Major 2 from
待
high.
機所で
So
取材
it
感
just, if
想。
that's anything to go by,
待機
I think
所
all the
いけ
teams
そうやけど
will
な、
be
こ
on
んな
that
時
high
間あ
ground.
ったら。
I'll say
You
something.
can.
I want to see Booga again in game number 2. He held out so long as a solo player, which is something you would expect with someone as much experience as him, being able to understand when to leave a fight, how to rotate away from everyone else through the dead side rotation, and I think he could do even better with threats.
緊張する
Yeah,
よ
that was
な
kind。of a difficult situation they put
シルバース
in,
ナイ
right?
パー持ってる人やばいってさ、これさ、ツーは誰かじゃね
Very, very early on, and then there's just so much pressure. You can't go for the reboot. You can't try to
ナイ
make
トさん。
something happen. He did
こ
still
れあれ
have
じゃないの
the
赤谷さんのや
eliminations,
つじゃない
right? That's still points.
た
We
またま
still are working towards something, but I think you're right, Kelly. With
ちょ
threats there, it could be
ちょ
different.
大学
たまたま
We
でしょ。
saw Booga actually going down to Surge there. He was trying to be a little bit too aggressive because he needed that Storm Surge damage. And when you're only 1 of 2, it's so difficult to do double the damage that you need because, of course, he's only on his own. He tried his best, being only 174 below.
大学でさんでし
It's a
た。
credit to how much
ナイト
damage
さ
and
ん。
how much
そうなの
aggression he was showing in that mid game because he needed to
ガチ
do it. But I mean,
うん
it's
近
Booga.
さ
He
ん
can
違
make
う。
anything happen.
Yeah, and this is still just game 1 of day 1.
Yeah.
There's so many more opportunities for these duos to change up their play style and potentially pull out something we haven't seen before.
That's right. Well, let's hear from Frankie, who's actually standing by because we want to hear what's going down in the crowd.
Well, I think Copenhagen thoroughly enjoyed game number 1. Did you love it,
Yeah, no.
Copenhagen? Were you happy that it was a European victory? Let me hear you. I have met a couple of Americans who's travelled all the way here. I don't know if there are many North American fans in the audience. Can we hear it? Do you love North America? That's not bad. And don't forget, this is the Friday, so the audience is still arriving because people are coming from work. Maybe someone's plane was delayed. What
めっちゃこぼしてないなんか。
fans?
ガチやんガチやんガチやん。
You can always count on the Brazilian fans to show up for their players. Any esport, any game, the Brazilian fans always give love. We've also got so many Japanese players on stage as well. I did meet a lovely Japanese family who came in just for them today as well. Any more Japanese or Asian fans?
お
Oh, I love it. They've all gathered over here.
めっちゃいる、マイボリーさんとかいる。
Over here of the Japanese fans. Oh, we literally have an entire group of people who are in Japan.
あ、来た来た来た来た。
あ、来たね。
And what about Middle East and Africa?
強い。ミドルイースト強い。
We've certainly got some of the crowd going, and I can't wait to hear how things
完全にスポーツ観戦だな。
ミドル
continue.
ミドルイーストが強すぎる。
This is what it's all about. It's hard to not get a little bit emotional when you think about like we have been having competition kind of separate all year, right? And now getting to come together to just compete. Obviously, there's a lot of
ミドルイースト強い、怖い。
think about this concept, 6 regions all
刺されそう、
going
普
to
通
the
に。
fans in the stadium. I'm sure fans at home watching, all the people you are all cheering for, it's just something else, man.
So good. I mean, we see
Well,
it online,
that's
we
it,
see some stuff on social media, people having a little bit of banter between themselves, a little bit of rivalry, some love as well.
この英語で喋ってる人に電話して日本語で喋ってる。いや、すいません。
I like the fact that Frankie went around the whole arena there to see who was where we expected.
ポップコーンこぼしたやついるね。
Very, very loud fans.
Oh, just a bit indeed. So gentle. I mean, yes, there is a little bit of banter going on online, but there's also a little bit of banter going on in the pre-show.
Yep.
But I want to talk about Reet and Ritual. I already talked a little bit about them, but I just want to showcase how they were able to make it into the end game there. And as we
リートいいね。なんかちょっとハゲてきてんのかな、リート。
second place spot. I mean, that's a great start.
It's a great start from this team. I mean, we've seen these guys, we've seen Marie performing on these international stages before.
だからリチャルックスレッツファッキンゴーでしょ。
LG?
リチャルックスレッツファッキンゴーでしょ。
As we get to have a little look at some of the highlights from them, of course, Ritual putting on such a great show there as well. And again, this is what we talked about earlier. They're just able to pick up zero builds,
これ勝ったんやけど。
in these environments. When he's got nothing, when he's down in the
これ2位処理
he
と。
can just pull something out of the bag. And you can see it right here. He's got all the loot to make it happen as much as possible. Of course, he couldn't quite make it all the way to a victory, but second place for those guys. If that hill wasn't in the way, a little Reet versus Veno 1v1, I want to see it.
And I love just him showcasing there all of the ability that he has.
Yeah.
The quick build, the easy edits, the great elimination,
Crazy
the
and
patience, as
Veno.
well as the aggression. I mean, that's what it takes to be a top player. It's not just having good aim, it's not just having game sense, it's having it all.
Yeah, and I think what that gameplay showed me, and actually something we've kind of seen a lot of, but more players have kind of shined a light on, is these sneaky tactics, right? It's not about, let me just run at you, because remember, these players are playing with indicators. There's so many ways to kind of know there's a threat incoming, but for so many players, they're kind of utilizing the strategy where we're just going to crouch around, we're coming around this corner, we're not going to build, we're not going to make any sounds.
いやー、アジア惜しかったね、1
We're
回目。
here, and now you're in a fight for Reet. This took him up to second place.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And we saw him there with the exotic shotgun just doing so much damage jumping right in the box. I think that shotgun and him are like a match made in heaven. I mean, it's a perfect shotgun just to jump in the box and go crazy.
いないか。
Shotgun and him are like a match made in heaven. I mean, it's the perfect shotgun just to with. So I'm expecting more of that from them. I'm expecting them to maybe try and keep consistent whilst also going for those eliminations. But it's one of those situations for them where do they have what it takes? I think so. I think it's all about how can they feel after game number 2. What's going through their head right now? How do you even pick up from a game where I'm sure they would have hoped to have won, but they could have got to a much better start than that only one place.
My only concern is that they can be a bit of emotional players.
また切れた、最悪。何これ。
One, but they couldn't have got off to a much better start than that. Only one place.
My only concern is that they can be a bit of emotional players, and being emotional is, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It does give you that passion, that excitement, but then it also can be a big detriment where once you're down for the rest of the competition. Now, again, I keep talking about the evolution of these two as players, so hopefully they've been able to kind of break past that wall. But I mean, my goodness, game number 1, and just so many big names going down early, so many new teams also coming through and kind of showcasing their region. And I already talked about the Mo.
まあ勝てばいいんじゃね、気象。
I mean, they just seem to have a game where
まあ勝てばいいんじゃね、ガチ。どれどれどれ。ばっかいい顔してんな。
めっちゃ終盤見た。ば
っかめっちゃキルしてたくね、こいつ。
あれや、
5キルしてるよ、1人でこいつ。
そうだ、たまたま
死んだとこ映すん、これ。
いや、知らんかね、これ。
refresh is hopping in the bomb. And recently, these guys have really been impressing me. They've been cooking. They've been doing really good. I mean, look at that.
Baga down to a sliver of health.
死んだとこ映す。
なんか、いや、メンタルが。
死んでない今の。
ない、全然死なんね。
ワールドカップ一緒に見たけど、メノうますぎるな。
メノうまいっしょ。
普通にあれワンパンすんのえげない。ミサイルで。
とりあえずお前もミュートして。
そうね、ゲス配信中ね。
あ、もう待って、またなんなんこれガチで。
だからみんなミュートされてます。
理由のせいやな。
リアさん。
Going for that refresh.
YouTube.
Clearly, it worked out for them. Pars unfortunately getting 1v2 there, but still, after that fight, they have to be feeling good.
Remember, both these guys actually play with different teammates at the Invitational, so I think those land chances, they're not going to be affecting those guys quite as much. That's why they got to have a very, very good start there. Despite
あ、まだ消えてるし。なんなんこれ。理由のせいや。
answers to all of those questions. And I think in this stage, in this environment that we're in, that's the most important thing, just trusting your game.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting where the game 2 of the day is ready. So let's head back on up to the casters to get things started. Thanks so very much. Right, we're really beginning the reset right now. Game 2 is just moments away, as we already know.
待って無理や。待って俺マジ消えた。すぐ消える。
ゴーライブ一旦なしでいいよ。それ何で見てるんだ？
あ、分かった。
何で見てる？
分かった。こうゴーレブしてからよいしょ。
絶対関係なさそう。
あれ？消える？ゴーレブ。
ゴーライブ消えた。勝手に？
うん。あ、いけた。
なんで？
来た。始まったー。頼む。
あ、勝ちそう。あ、負けそう。あ、きつい。負けそうやな。きついな。きついな。
今ちゃん？
強すぎ強すぎ。
ラブラブラブ。お、マリブが死んでる。
ガチやん。
マリブがもう死んでる。
やる？
もうちょ？やる？おった？What the fuck？いやでもきついなこれさすがに。
そうね。
あー惜しいな。
Meanwhile, it looks like Kanata and Agers have also finished the deed on their side of the map.
しかもなんか
You gotta
いる
think,
く
look, Kylie Fastroki
おい
listening
こ
to
こ
what's
戦ってんだ
happening here. So Camion said you're not safe just yet.
どっち勝った？
North, Pars Baka.
マリブが。
Coming out the early
マリブカが
game,
負
three
けた。
eliminations. So it wasn't just this team they finished. They had more to fight after this.
But it started with
うわ、ステインデータス惜しい。
early dual elimination onto Misha and Teeny.
うわ、今の焦るよな。
Look for a repeat instance is all going to boil down.
いやまあでもどっちも1-1やな。
Really want to try and take a more aggressive
マリブカたちも。
勝った時に伸ばすかやな。
あ、これ
どうなったん？これマリブが言ってたら勝つくねワンちゃん。こ
れ武器ある？
これ勝った。あ、これ強いな。
これなったらもうね。
え？あー強いね。カナダ勝つの。これ引き合ってさどうなんの？あ、港フリーなんか。
いやこっちが有利すぎんじゃん。
そりゃそう。
あっちかわいそう。
上取られたのか。うわマリブが負けたんか。かぶってるやつが強すぎるわカナダとマリブがって。来た。ブーが。
ここ何が強いんかマジで分からんけどな。
この今の宝箱じゃね。
ああまあ。
神えぐい集中してる。なんか顔怖くね神めっちゃ。
いやこれあれだよ。こいつはなんかフレンジ下の黄色い家に降りてたこいつら。うわ負けたくねしかも相手もこれめっちゃ上位でしょ多分。
あれじゃあぜひワンパシンだっすね。まあ正直な300ぐらい当てたらあれじゃね引くんじゃね。
当てたいだけか。
いやこれもうでも今の一発で結構きついけど気持ち的に。いやこれもう圧倒的に不利やけど。もう一個ぶっちきてね。ピンク。
they are not willing to budge.
ビコたち
They
ビコ
are
たち
staying as close to each other as possible because they also want to make sure that they stay in contention of this
フレンジの周り多すぎやろこれ。
let it go for free
これマジで
towards Kylie and Pastrocki. It seems for the
こ
time
れやばい
being
ぞ
they have successfully managed to push them off entirely. So it does look as though Cammy and Seti are going to buy themselves just enough time, and the capture point will be in their favor.
Meanwhile, Pink and Vico lurking nearby. They're
いやこれ回復集めて点数の頭いいなマジで。
スラッピーで運転手が強くなくね。
あいつと一生手打ちっしょ。
あいつとずーっとやるんだ。
これガシさ言ってんじゃんこれ手打ちしようって。
さすがに言ってるでしょ。もう絶対無理じゃね。
やばない。
こういうヘッド当てすぎやしな。
マジで意味な。
待って待って、でもこれはさ、
これはなんかちょっと怪しすぎるけどなこれ。
さすがに言ってます。
クイズ一人やってる。
な、もう勝ち。
予選1位構成や。
1あるよ。
こいつら強いなマジで。
こいつら港
キルポエグい。
あ、しかもこれポイント毎試合マジで消えるな。0ポイントだったよな。
こいつら対面型すぎん。こいつら今3位やで。誰これ
You would have thought at the invitational, hey, look, we don't have land experience. What's going to happen? Nope. They are here showing that they didn't need it. And they're even better than the last time we saw them.
パッと
Don't really need land experience if you can just trust your instincts as a player, and that seems to be exactly the mentality here for Pars. Just breaking through Teeny's build. Teeny, absolutely no health to
これリ
work
プレイかいる
in
か
that circumstance.
キ
It's
ョ
a
ン
nice
キョン
establishing point there, because now that is 2 games back to back. That's going to start to pose a real issue here, because again, Monster, it's only 5 games.
Yeah,
And
no,
Misha
no,
and
no.
Teeny to be knocked so early on, they've got some ground to really make up for at this point.
A lot of ground to make up. Recover to be made here, but Acorn, Cole looking good so far.
なんで一人で行動してる人いるんですか。サージャーで似てるのかな一人で別れてとか。
あ、これ配信してんの？
うん。
Three in Ritual. What a surprise from them. I did not expect them to have such standout performances, especially with such a strong game one, and then an even better start to their game two so far.
今じゃも
Here's Jamon and Yuma. Very, very interesting duo right here.
Just kind of floating around for the time being.
切れた。
Just kind of floating around for the time being. Just waiting to determine which direction. Seems as though they're just gonna go a little bit further into this jungle biome. And Yuma, doesn't seem as though they have any other incentive for the time being as far as aggression is concerned, but might be having to pick things up a little bit, as again, we did see some teams struggling a bit in game number 1 as far as that surge damage threshold was concerned.
Yeah, but Stroking Kylie definitely gonna have a problem with that right now. With a few teams with elimination right now, already making a move deep into the outskirts here as they see
第2かまだ。
there's a potential cachet left behind, so just trying to secure what they can.
こっちフリーやから強いな割と。
So very important for them to get their rotation loop route down snappy here, as the zone will be pushing in pretty quickly.
誰に勝ってほしいですか僕たち。
On the other side,
僕は
Vico
無限パパとしてロンに
now
勝ってほ
up
しい
to
で
a
す
high
ね。
ground position here. I'm gonna go for trades, and oh, what a dirty angle there for Vico.
お前じゃすいません。
Those are extremely important onto teams inside the mega city.
シェリー誰や。
Again, we see some of the action that's been unfolding here so far, but we've got Levin to give us even more.
Thank you very much, Taka. Look, we just saw Pink and Vika there on the screen. We've seen Acorn and Code in this game as well. Coming into this game, both these teams in the top 10.
この人の名前何だっけレブロンみたいな。
I like to see fighting. And I thought these two would be fighting. And even Pink himself said, look, we might have to fight in this area for both of us to share. but they're somehow making it work. So far in game one, both of them, they're making things so scrappy. Every single bit of loot they can get, they're going for, and somehow they're in the top 10. If they can continue, I expect both of these teams to quarrel, but when it comes time to grand finals, I don't expect them to be friendly anymore. I'm thinking if they can both qualify, that's when we're going to start to see some action for them.
That's an excellent point. It's one thing to make your way through it.
ちなみに誰もミュートしてない。
Being the the hurdle to overcome. That's a pretty low barrier
ず
for
ーっと来ました。
top tier competitors. But when you get to finals, you
あ、ちなみにセイバーさんだけずっとミュートしてます。
It's all that matters for the best of the best.
次の世界大会はいつですか？来年の今頃ちゃうかな。
In one of the pre-show videos that we saw, cap metal is so important for him, and you have to expect that his split drop.
やってるよ。
やってんね。ルシー。
頭よ、頭よ。
あー、ずっとこれで稼ぎ。でもこれなんかさ、これナイトルたちが前昔スラッピーでさ、タンク一緒ってやった時なんかチーミングみたいなの言われたくない？これやばな。
やば。
マジ？
やばこれ。
マジで言ってる。でもこれダウン取んないといけないのむず。
なんて言われてると思う？アジアはクソだって言われてるよ。解説に。でもさ、今回復1個もなかったけどね、ザゴたち。
0-0-0。
あ、隠し開いた。
めっちゃ稼ぎなんじゃん。
Worthy, meanwhile, he's got to get a different sort of strategy going. Decent span
これやばい。
here.
うおっし。
Nice shots onto Mustache.
俺ならやれた
Actually
な。
tags him up all the way into his
ラクテキス。
white HP, but still holding strong
ADHD boy
here.
って言われて
Worthy
る。
doesn't seem all that excited to give up this positioning that he's established just yet, and good reason. It's a pretty nice aerial view.
Skiros and Shari now. Great position here. Zone's already starting to hold more
カクさんこんばんは。
center
カ
than
ク
the last
カク
game.
ってあれ？
So this will be
テイラーの弟？
a very much
カ
different
ク君。
terrain than what we just saw.
テイラーさんじゃなくね？
That's going to
テ
be
イラーさんだっけ？
probably a warm
テイラーさん
welcome
か。
for these Western teams that don't seem to get very lucky often. But as we know it, anything can of course
カク君
happen
お前
here.
じゃってこいつほんまにちょっとマジでタイムアウトしとこう。
It's got to be so scary sliding over the
Ah,
ice, then
Kakkun
just
ya.
hoping that no one's going to be able to catch sight of you, but Cooper, not sure he's even
Kakkun
fully
いかんかった
aware
の
of the fact
コ
that
ペンハーゲ
Zago
ン
and Peppo are based just
お兄ちゃ
a
ん
little bit
ゴミみたいな
more
やつやから
towards
な。あいつ連れてってくれへんか優しくないし。
jungle trench. Miro following suit behind Cooper. These teams trying to make sure they don't stray too far from each other, but still wanting to make sure of the fact that they are collecting the resources they need.
行きたかったマジ行きたかったよ
Because we
な
saw just how congested that last game was, especially with the way that zone was pulling so viciously over the water. So much of these teams were just getting trapped inside of that mid-layer territory.
ザゴーさんたち結構良さそうやけどな。
Meanwhile, the Rift Island
これリードこれ取ったらやばない
jumping
これ取れたら。
outside of Re and
何でいくん
Rituals.
やろ？
いやさすがに叫びちゃう。
They can be the first to take a stab at it, and if they
えリード取れそうじゃない？
secure
一番近くね？
surely top
うん。
25 is
シェロン
in the bag
シェロンいる。
as they were in the 76
一人行くかな？
threshold range of total points. So
えこれ自分の場所ちゃんと把握してんのかな？もう上にあるけど。
they will be in the top 25.
あ、
It could be done
いけ、
and
魚が
dusted here. As there are only 5 games, but no,
怖い。
instead they say, hey, look.
えこいつは取れるんじゃね？
てかもうなんかあんまみんないかんな。
いやー確かにむずいよ。
I don't know which was riskier, but it works out at the end there.
Able to juke out some of those distant shots in
3段目っ
the
て
air, and
当たらないんじゃね旗。
being the first ones to actually touch down on Rift Island does mean that they'll be the first to try and make use of those bonus objective points with the Capture Island point. But again, Re and Ritual, I mean, who did we see last
見え
game?
ない敵に
On
攻
the
撃が
Rift
当たるんです
Island,
け
it
ど
was
プロ
Thomas
はもう
Malabuka. Well, guess what? They
み
got
んな名
eliminated
誉すぎ
super
て
early by Kanata and Agers. So
やばいね。
now it doesn't seem
な
as
ん
though
か
there's anyone posing too
全
much
部
of
見
a
えて
threat.
る
But
ね。
Baka and Pars, they've been fighting for
この人なんかアホ面じゃないか別に。
it seems.
アホ面かと思っ
It's
た。
still Chubb's team too. Chubbs was looking at them before. It seems like he's giving them a problem on the rotate into the
一人
zone. And look at the cost of Bryce because Bryce was falling at
ラー
some
クフィックス
point
みたいな顔してるけどちゃう
or
んや。
another as made their way to this position here.
But at this point, it almost seems as though Chubbs is just trying to waste Baka and Pars'
右
time,
にババ生きてるのいい
trying to
な。
force them into expending some of their resources, some of their splashes and heals that they might not have wanted to let go of otherwise. And again, it's still early on.
Pars goes into the box. He's going for the full push. Baka's here to back him up. And this is what happens. You shake the hornet's nest and you might get stung. And luckily for him, he will escape somehow, some way. Barely sliding his way out the side there. Baka has a different goal in mind, though. He's going to go around the outskirts here. No stranger to the zone. Continues to play with it, but ouch. That surely wasn't a part of the strategy here as Chubbs 2 stood behind. Tough spot to be in now.
But look at Chubbs' builds. They're running incredibly low. He's actually going to forfeit that height positioning, but it's not like Baka and Pars have any idea, but now Chubbs seemingly under pressure.
ジャイモンユマいいね。マジで下アンチやな。
Still has to make his way in through the zone as a solo. Not sure if he'll find a really bad opportunity either this late in.
One spot to be in now if you're Kanata and Agers. Even more pressure as they only scored 0 points in game number 1.
また消えた。
First team to be fully eliminated.
やらかした。触っちゃった。
Pressure as they only scored 0 points in game number 1.
何これ
The first team.
OBS の方で触ったらあかんのか。もういいや、触らんとこ。
Of course, some of NA's best there too. Very few can say they've wielded the pickaxe of champions, but hold up, jump in with Kali Vestroki, who's already gotten an elimination. This is actually a full finish that they picked up, potentially onto Cammy. And now Seti is by himself. My, oh my, what a tough spot to be in for Cammy and Seti. Of course, they didn't pull the luck to draw game 1 and now game 2. Not going in their favor necessarily here. Could we be seeing them a lower bracket push?
It's the fact that Seti and Cammy already had to deal with
画
one
面
hit
上
at
生
the
きてん
start
ね
of
んな。
match number 2.
触ったらあかんねやろな。
He's going for it, might make it
Ah.
to Cammy in time, but unfortunately the rocket ram speed.
なんなんこれ。
Get the Cammy in time, but unfortunately the rocket ram speed just not
あ、治っ
enough.
た。よかった
Having the reboot card though, talked about how difficult it can be to look for that reboot down opportunity, but it might actually be the intention from Seti at this point because it's a lot easier to make it into that end game if you have your duo with you.
え、神死んでるやん。
Bugha make it work as a solo with no threats. This time Seti said no. I'm not going to end game by myself. He's going to just over reboot. Let's see if he ends up working out. Meanwhile, Queasy and Bino continue to farm their surge tags here. Desperately in need though.
リードたちやばくね。
Protection is not going to be enough, not for long at least. They're recognizing the potential threat looming.
シャケ10ってちょっと強いように見えてそんな強くない。
Sniper in hand here, so Bino really flexing the exercise of his sniper play here. It's Kanata who's in front of him. They gotta be careful.
ブーがまた死んでる。
Bino though, taking his time with the approach as you would expect. Have to keep in mind for as much of a fragger as he is. Oh no, trouble though for threats here. He's got a nice knock it seems. Might be
え
able
え、一人やってるやん。
to
え、
find the
大
double
密するやん、これ。
But still, Anon doing everything in his
ワンショッ
power
ト
to
作るから。
delay
え、
as
買っとくね、
long
こ
as
れ。
he
敵
can,
掃
but
除食らって
this
ね。
storm is so
俺死ぬ。
problematic.
敵掃除食らってね、これ。
Trying to see if he can finish the job now onto Anon. He wants this refresh of materials from both Suns and Anon. Bound to get something for his troubles at this point. Gold Shark Tooth Pump. Prime ready to go. That right side peek.
うわ、危ない、危ない。
Really a miss there for threats, but he will be able to capitalize. Close out.
あ、でもこれアンチガ
Another
ンと
elimination secured here.
耐えれる
That's。going to be
うわ、そんなあれ。
taken down by NA.
If it wasn't
で
for
もアン
that
チ
overshot,
入ってね、
he
今
was
の。
done.
入ってたけ
He
ど。
had 2 eliminations where
そう
he
いいん
was
じゃない
100 HP in Siphon and he
下
needed
下がなかったよ。
6
ミス
health,
して
by
た
the
くね。
way. Surely the map
めっ
doesn't
ちゃ楽。
quite add up, so he needed a little more that we couldn't see if it was that overshield that kept him alive there. My gosh, how close that was. Well, for QND, Rapid here, Middle East, 2 of their finest here. It's time to get on into this new zone here. Long rotate to make, and it's going to be a tough one for them.
ラグすぎ、ラグすぎ。
Meanwhile,
え、
out
こ
of
れ、
the top 5 here,
ゴレゴレ
only
じゃないね。
3
ガチで
duos
こんなの。
remaining here in game 2 for Strokey and Kylie
やばい。
down, and Shari, Vision View down there. You can see on the right.
On the bright side, though, for CUNY and Rapid, did see them with that Storm Chaser augment, so that's definitely going to
グレネード最近見ないんですけど消えたんですか？そう。グレネード消えないね。これでサージ耐えてんのこれ。耐えた先に何があんのこれ。しんどすぎる見てるだけで。
いやザコペコがどれぐらいサージ稼げたのか見たいな。これ時間的に結構いけるもしかして。いや無理じゃん。終わった。
うわもうなんか息地獄すぎて見てられへん普通に。泣きそう。一人でこうしよかったこいつ。
やれ。
やったぞ。
無理だ。そろそろ限界来る。
サージ消えろって思っても今54サージ。
54サージ。
やば。
絶対消えん。いや
マジで見てるだけで悲しすぎんねんけど。
ボビーさん楽。
ザボさん。ペポいる？ペポいなさそう。いないな。マジ全員サージきついな。スラップ取れたらワンチャン？焦っていい。クイジかこれ。
クイジだったわ。結構
ボビーさんサージで死んでる。
知らんくないか？
シロンは？
ラグスとか全然大丈夫。
ラクフェックスサージ。
映ってないな。
生きてるよペポ。
ほんま。
フル HP で生きてんじゃんどっちも。
めっちゃいいんちゃう？
アンチさ、この右のあれっしょ？茶色っしょこいつら。茶色なんかさ。反対か。左から行ったらフリー。うわ微妙いな。いや言うてか。これアンチ入ってんの次。見えてるっぽいな。3位死んでる、5位死んでる、7位死んでる。13以上って怖いよな。飛んできたぞここ。ペポいる？いるわ。ペポきつくね？一人。ペポ移動できたかな？どうなんやろ。ミニ1。ミニ1か。世界大会でスラープを使ってダウンしてるときに攻撃したら最強じゃね。スラープを使ってダウンしてるときに攻撃したら。スラープ使って。ザゴさんいるね。ワンチャンサージ食らってる？食らってないな。
リュウさんたち
5キル？
リュウさんたちちょっと心苦しい。リュウさんたちキルで心苦しいから別のツアー行ってくんね。
こいつらやばくね？
回ってんな。
5キルであれやで空島取ってんねこいつら今のやつ。
そうね。でもあれじゃんハイダーじゃん。
うわシロン死んだ。
まだ
ザゴペポか。あとは
ミキミキさんが
終盤来た。
ハイガラクイジー
マジ？いやでもね2位とかでもやばいんじゃね？リートたち。ザゴペポちなみに来てます皆さん。
マジ？
いややば。 いや、
違うか。
どっかの位置。あ、そっか、セッティ一人か。よう来たな、一人でこいつ。あ、てか神リブドしたよ、こいつ。すごっ。ユマジャイも来てます。
マジ？
うん。ユマジャイも安定してね、めっちゃ。でもこれザゴペポまだ死んでないからワンチャン一気に飲ますけど。
そんな物資が戦い止まれない。
ザゴペポどこいる？ペポいい。ペポ
でもユマジャイも先頭の方いる。
ペポいないかもな、ワンチャン。
なかなか。
あ、ペポ死んでるわ。
でまだザゴさんが？
うん、ザゴさんやなと。
でもユマジャイモンがまだいる。
ユマジャイモンは強っマジで。あ、ザゴさん死んじゃったな。あ、今さ死んだ。あ、でもさ死んだ今。目の前で死んだ。12とか？いや、むずっ。世界強っ。
なんかさすがやな。
いや、世界やば。
刑事死んだ。
刑事死んでるね。
リート
6キルしてるけどね。マジ強い。やばい。セッティ。セッティ
やばい。一人伸ばしすぎやろ。
8キル。やば、こいつら。
まあな。
エリート一人や、あれか。さっきのキルか。
あ、ライズ。
アリート死んでるライズやってるわ。
あ、全員ソロ。
全員ソロ。
熱っ。ビノさん死んだ。エコン。
エムと死んだ。フリックジーとエコンと上誰やったっけ？ライズとハイグラが8キルしてるやつ。ハイグラやばい。ハイグラ絶対勝った。
1v1
氷ロケット
待って、ワンチャン、ロケット上。
ロケットワンチャン
行くしかない。あ、200HP。GG 絡んだ。
飛ばしたらワンチャン？
いや、ワンチャン。あ、無理だ。でも。
あ、終わった。終わった。いや、待って、これビクロしたやつやばいぞ。こいつ何キルビクロ ?10 キルじゃね？
誰？
やばい、10キルビクロやで、こいつ。
誰なんだ？
シャイリーです。全然わからん。
これさっきジャイモンさんじゃねって言った人じゃねえの？
That was quite the performance. How did you feel in those final moments of that game?
10キルビクロやで、こいつら。
And what was going through your mind? Because you had an American flying up into the air, getting the information of you, but you had the better health in the situation. How do you feel clutching in front of all of these people?
Amazing.
Amazing. That's a perfect word. Let me come over
フォートナイ
to
トの
you.
200万人のアカウントからザゴペポのサージのさっきの稼いでたやつツイートされてる。
あれは世界に衝撃を与えたでしょう。
I love this vote of confidence. We're basically qualified 2 games in. So are you already thinking about Sunday?
これでも1回ピッキル投げてもなんか結構耐えれるんや。あれすぐ死んだと思ったけど。
Absolutely, but
いや普通にワンチャンマックスダメージ入れた方が稼げる説も。
Obviously, you want all of these duos to fear you. What sets you apart from the competition?
I think just good strategy, good communication in duo. Yeah, I think that's all.
Well, we definitely saw the strategy pay off. But congratulations on the victory, Roy. Our Giros and Cherry, everyone!
嬉しい聞かせてくれよ、勝った時の。熱すぎるって。
Is an honor, but to get a victory royale in a circumstance like this with a crowd this electric, That is something else.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, these guys land in that sort of area, so it was a very much a home zone for them, but they made it count. We've seen teams that haven't had that sort of zone lot, you could say, actually pop off, but these guys, they made it count when they did get the zone.
Yeah, and not only did they grab that victory royale, but they did it with double-digit eliminations. Yeah. I did not expect to see that so early on in the competition. They pretty much were grabbing eliminations as soon as the game started, and by solo, they had 4 eliminations, but they were able to kind of hold that low ground for so long and clean up the rest of the lobby. It was quite the solos there in the end as well. I think I saw 5 solos right there at the end, all battling it out.
世界大会出てる人みんな強いとか、そりゃそうっすね。まあまあ強いじゃないですか。まあ割と。中ぐらい、まあ10で言ったら中ぐらいの人が多分出てる大会だと思います。
Start. I mean, we saw them go down early in game 1. We knew that they needed to do something a little different in game 2. We've got to watch their drop where they went for the window of that barn in Frenzy Fields, and it looked like they had a pretty easy 50-50 there. But Cammy did end up going down in that fight.
Yeah, and they were able to make a
comeback against Datus and Stain. But then, not too much later, we saw Fastroki trying to go for them as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Pink also was starting to try and make their way down, but then said, "Oh wait, no, that's Seti and Cammy. I'm gonna turn around right now."
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we saw Seti in that end game. This was crazy. He tried to go for height. That was so This guy's crazy.
Like, he was like, you know, he's like an autopilot, like high ground. I mean, oh no.
I think that. Honestly, I think it was a great play.
いやー、リート1位よな、そりゃ。
11
位上げてきたね、チャーリー。
トップ5ぐらいはもう確定やな。
ベノここまで落ちんの？あんだけ生き残ってさ、20ポイントしか稼いでないことある？
Yeah, I did want to highlight a couple of things for us first. In that number 1 spot, Rich and Ritual. Whoa,
that's the one.
I'll come back to him in just a second. But just as a reminder, Sherry and Gidas, and I'm sorry if I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the names. I'll see myself out. I'm so sorry.
Can we get someone else on the desk?
Yeah, can we get Mini Minor, you take over.
Yeah.
A huge victory royale from the duo, and I kind of just love the way they kind of play this, right? You can kind of tell, even just after these 2 games, these games are so hectic. They're not anything like the games we used to see, right? A lot of these other regions, NA and E, which we typically broadcast, you can see, like, even though there's chaos, there's a lot of control, right? It's like, okay, well, I know we're going to do this, and we'll position ourselves. In these last 2 games, it's just chaos, right? Either no build or everyone's on mad low HP where everyone is one shot to the other. In this case, coming down to the 1v1, it is so hectic on this stage.
I mean, in this situation, we've talked about it almost seemingly all year. When Queasy and Benno aren't on height in that end game, it's anybody's game. We saw Seti trying to spoil the party up there for Chari and Giras on height. He didn't quite do that, but he did take out one of them. Of course, that was Chari, that was Giras. So Chari had to solo clutch from high ground. Of course, that's what's going to win them these games. We're seeing it time and time again.
全部で75%やんな。
And because Queasy and Benno weren't there, the high ground was a lot more free.
It was indeed. But I do want to talk about the duo that we were looking at for just a moment there. Reet and
75%やな。
So here we go, Kelly. All right.
Listen, all right. They're doing a very good job right now. That might be why they're in first place. And they're utilizing everything that competitive Fortnite has to offer, such as Rift Island, getting those 15 points. And that is actually what's going to be pushing them into that first place spot. But also, the placements, they are currently tied with Cold and Acorn, who are some of the most consistent players in the world.
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, there was always a moment there where they were boxing up below that Rift Island. They were like, I mean, nobody's going up for it. Is anyone here? I guess that's our island. We'll take it. So that's what we like to see. I mean, yeah, that's what Reet's all about. He's one of those players that will play it smartly. Of course, we've seen so much aggression from them, even in this endgame. There are so many moments of that. I think this is what makes competitive Fortnite in person so great, is that when Reet makes these crazy plays hopping in the box, you can feel the energy, you can feel the crowd just go, wow. How has he gone about that? And that's what he's all about.
But we can't.
I
mean, he's doing a great job as well. He actually had more eliminations than Reet there. He did go down, but you know Reet is not going to go down without a fight, even as a solo here, grabbing some much needed refreshes and being able to kind of bully the low ground here.
love
his playstyle, right? He's almost fearless. We actually saw something very similar from Baka and Pars in the last game, right? One of them dropping down to 1 HP, but it's the confidence. It's like, it doesn't matter what situation we're in, we just have to go for it. If we're eliminated, that's fine, but let's go for it. Now, making that work is wild, and I think he's someone that for a long time, especially back when it was NA East, NA West, he kept saying things like, I want to go up against these other regions because I want to prove that I have what it takes to compete.
What a better place to do it, right? He's making the crowd happy, he's making us happy, making the team happy in first place spot as well. Right there at the end, we saw the player actually going for the med miss. He said, no, you're not having that med miss, I'm coming straight in there. And the reaction from the crowd was so cool at that moment.
Well, I already mentioned them, but Acorn and Cold also had a great performance as well. And I mean, I love to see NA on top, Minnie. What's going on?
I mean, NA on top, this is a difficult one.
プロ狩りのナイトがラギアクルスさんで、うんちがセイワーさんらしい。
In this later stage of the game, I think there was a moment in this end game where they were trying to look up for that high ground, didn't quite happen for them. But these mid to low ground layers is what they're known for. It's what they did so great in Major #1. And as I said earlier, they've actually adapted their drop spot. Levin said it so well in that mid game segment. We saw them actually going further away from Pink and Vico, which is something that I didn't expect to happen. I thought they'd just go for a full-on 50-50. It's day one. Why not? And of course, it's working out for them. And Acorn doing such a great job solo clutching. We've seen him do it before, and he's done it again.
Such a clean elimination there, and you know that they're feeling good going into game number 3 and 3rd spot. And at some point, maybe our top 3 have kind of already solidified themselves. Obviously, crazy things can happen, right? I mean, we've seen our top team be eliminated on drop, so that might not be solidified just yet, but still, they have to be feeling even more confident going into the next 3 games.
Absolutely, and you know, we have thoughts and perspectives. We actually have Vivid standing by with community favorite Reddish. Viv, what's she have to say?
I told you guys I was going to be coming from the lounge throughout the weekend. This time around, we have Reddish joining us, a fantastic creator in the Fortnite space. And she told me that this is actually her first time experiencing an event as a fan. So tell us all, how has it been experiencing the Global Championship so far?
I've honestly been watching, I think, for the last 3 years. But as you said, first time.
マイク入ってないよ。マイク入ってないよ。
Sorry, guys.
Don't you worry, Reddish. Don't you worry. Man, this has been such an incredible start to the day. The first 2 games of the Global Championships, especially in the upper bracket. Kelly, you said something that interested me. You talked about these top 3 and how they potentially might have already qualified, right?
Right.
What we saw kind of out of Queasy and Vendo was they had this strong start.
ちょっと待って。
What we saw kind of out of Queasy and Vendo was they had this strong start. And it's like, okay, well, remember, top 25, what do those points look like? After one good game, a duo could very well just qualify, right? They might just need a good game with a couple VR or a couple eliminations, rather, and it might be just enough.
Definitely might. I think for now, these teams that are in this sort of top 5, top 3, realistically, you have to think that they have got it in the bag, but especially anything can happen. They've got to keep their foot on the gas.
まだ入らんよな。
It's also really, really good practice. Really good to be in this environment. What are these other teams from these other regions going to do? Because who knows?
20以内は入ってないですね、まだ。
Obviously going down early in game number 1. That's going to put them in the 2nd cage of our lobby list. But we got to talk about SETI using the rocket ram once again. That's seems to be where the utilization of this rocket ram is going. Launching high into the sky, seeing where the rest of the lobby is. I love this. And yes, by having the rocket ram, you see that a lot of these teams are forgoing that 3rd heal, which can be incredibly beneficial. But it just has so much more utilization than I think I initially thought.
And it just shows how good this duo are individually. We talk about them so often as Cammy and SETI as a collective, but we have to remember these guys are both incredibly talented players as solos. We've seen them in DreamHacks come 1st and 2nd, and they're just like a duo that have just decided to play in that solo event. So that's what we love to see from this duo, and I like to see the fact that we can have trust in SETI, trust in Cammy to clutch up in the big moments.
And you know what else we have trust in? Queasy and Vino going for it.
28分やからもう経ってるな。
the others. There's so much more. Now, I promised you an interview with Reddish. We're going back to Vivid in the Creator Lounge. Let's do this.
And we're back. Sorry about that, guys. I accidentally did too far of a mic drop earlier. I ended up breaking the microphone. But I'll
2メートルの高さからマイクを落としたせいで声が聞こえませんでした。すみません。
Fortnite scene. And like I was saying, this is actually her first
今 AYD がなんか言ってんだろうな。
being a fan. So let us all know how it has been experiencing the global championship.
It's been phenomenal. I was saying earlier, but you didn't hear that I've been watching every single FNCS for like the last 3 years, I think. But this is my first time watching from an audience. I couldn't make it to the US last time. And it's been crazy. I'm sitting right next to Gentlemates, the French people, and they go crazy every 2 minutes. The audience goes crazy. And also, I have to mention the first game as a GXR supporter was pretty wild. We had Malibuka win off spawn and claim the island, and then Queasy won. So it's been just amazing to watch as a fan and supporter and Fortnite lover. So, yep.
Yeah, awesome. I love the fact that you're kind of bringing up who's been doing well throughout the day. Of course, this is the upper bracket. We have 25 teams going directly into the finals after the day. Give us a couple names that you think are going to be, towards the top of that leaderboard after the end of the day.
We still have a few games left, so I have a feeling almost everyone kind of still has a chance. Wait,
ジャンボペポが24位。
will do it. Hopefully, I
上がって
didn't
きた
jinx him. And
36ポイ
I
ン
don't
ト。
know, so many
さっ
teams
き
are doing
ジャ
amazing.
イさん
Golden Acorn.
ジャイモンさんそれ1個下さ25位。で、ポイント一緒。
結構伸ばしてね。ジャイさんたち。
22位と14位。
Who's
今の
gonna
試合が
make it in
14
the
位。
end? But all of them are
だ
amazing
けど、
and super
イ
talented
ル
in
ポが
this video game.
1
Awesome. And for anybody that would love to check out your content,
ラブ
Reddish,
大だっ
let
け
them
レイ
know
ダ
where they
ー
can
サ
find
ン
you.
ステインさんが
Reddish on
37 位
Twitch
で。
or I'm Reddish on Twitter.
There it is. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Reddish, for the insight. And we're going to be tossing it back to the desk with Zeke and the crew.
Thank you so much. Reddishers, fantastic as always. Now, as we kind of draw closer to the next game start, we kind of wanted to highlight a couple of things. Really quickly, Minimata, you kind of called this out for us, and I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about it.
08、12、36、36。
They had a very
頑張れ。
interesting
全然あるぞ。
storm surge strategy in that last game.
Yeah, they did. And I think this just encapsulates what
今のボーダーが
land events
36。
and global
この試合終わっ
events
たら
are all
ね。
about. We never know what these other smaller
2
regions
回目よ。
could be pulling out of the hat when it comes to strategy. And
長
what I
す
saw
ぎま
there
す。
in
世
that
界
end
大
game was
会。
actually, or that mid game actually, I should say, Zago and Peppo actually got a knock. They were able to carry
今
the
ザコペ
body
ポじゃなかった。
towards some of the slurp mushrooms, keep healing the player on those slurp
あ、言ってる
mushrooms.
言ってる言ってる。
That benefits them because they
言
can
ってる。
keep
何言ってるか全然わかんないけど。
to
多分
get
言って
some
る。
more storm surge damage. We've seen storm surge have such a big impact so far in these first 2 games, and if you don't have enough damage, it's going to result in your elimination. That's what I really like to see from this. Those guys pulling out
ゲーム
strategies
パパなんで
I
姉ちゃん
haven't
手入れ
seen
へんの
before.
やろ。
Just keeping on healing up the player. I love it.
Leave it to Peppo and Zago to do that. And also
You, it's
leave it
nature,
to Queasy and
Coronado.
Vino, who had a pretty good strategy as well early on to get those storm surge tags. We actually saw a sniper on their loadout, which is not something that we typically see. People tend to go for the twin mag. And then they also had 2 different spots for their splashes there. So by having more than, I think it was around 10 splashes, being able to not just heal, but also rotate quickly, which is part of the reason why we saw them be able to set themselves up for success towards the end game. And I say that as Queasy goes down, but still, being able to make it all the way there is going to get them those much needed placement points.
Yeah, trying to get Venom to clutch twice in a row, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? You can't do it again, surely. But no, I like to see
He's
that.
just waiting till Sunday.
Yeah,
Venom
wait. He brought it out in game 1. But no, not a bad game at all from this duo. We saw them trying to set up for what we're expected to see from them. Let's see if they can continue.
That's right. I'm excited to see game number 3. So let's kick it on over to our casters to take us in.
Thank you so much, Zeke. And that's right. Game number 3, nearly ready for these players to hop off the battle bus. But Monster, we've been seeing some pretty interesting things so far throughout the first 2 games. And hold that thought till the game, because the battle bus is good to go. Match number 3, right here.
光る俺や。これかっこいいな。ステインデータ涼してくれるんちゃうこれ。最初フレンチやったし。
どうや。あ、そう、もう最初からフレンチ。来ましたけど、
負けてね。
やばい、これ、行くんきつない。
行くわ。下降りや。
引かないね。下降りるんや。
待て、ワンチャンいけるぞ。これ勝てるぞ。
衝動したらマジ強すぎる。いや
ミニ強いぞ。
あ、やばい。
うわー、ショットなんか。
アンティ。今、効果なんかめっちゃ負けてたね。
これあれな、ここ絶対取らなあかんの。
もう、フレンジ下もいるし、なんかもうプライド勝負的な。
ロークピックスオフィスやってる。
それはやばない。
頑張れーっつってね。
頑張れーっつって普通に。キングかっこよ。リトリートってマジゴミなんでしょ。 弱いね。でもかぶってるって。
うまい。カルゲーマー。
Take down Calgamer actually gonna look for a brief retreat here though at the relentless retreat.
I like it.
Seems as though he wants to try and look for some better weaponry or possibly even just looking for a different position altogether.
Yeah, upgrade would be important and massive there, especially since he's
got the
material there. The shotgun. Meanwhile, Zagu,
なんでかぶ
せられたくね。
いや
勝てるぞ勝てるぞ勝てるぞ。
はい、いけいけいけいけ。
行きたいね。
い
や、いいけど、いいけど。ミリキ巻いてね。あ、でかか。ザゴエグイ、前傾姿勢エグい。うわー。やったんかな。やって。
専属通訳の方ずーっと後ろに。
Now fully aware of the fact that Zagu is trying to break down his wall.
五分なったね。うまいけど。
これもそれ。ノーマッチやノーマッチや。でもきつ。
ペポが。
これ五分すぎるガチで。でもこれ
この人たち
あるね。資材借るとこないんじゃねなんか。確かに。
うわ、今シールドブレイクあったら。
そうね。
ペポ。
お、ナイス。
お、ナイス。ペポ行ってもいいけどな、正直。
勝てるよ、でも。相手の種類わかんないな。あ、でも待って、また100周年だった。あ、タルト投げて、弾をそこで使わせるな。もうそういうレベルの戦いっちゃうこれ。
お、ナイス、でかすぎこれ。うわー、もうちょい欲しかったな。割れてる。これ買っとくね。賞味。
タレットぶん投げろ。タレットやるぞこれ。いけ。
あ、ナイス。
お、
ナイス。
レッツゴー。
レッツゴー。
めっちゃ拍手してる。ナイス。めっちゃ初動差し稼げたなこれ。
いやマジでかいこれ。今しかもめっちゃ稼いだくね。
めっちゃついた。
Look now with Kylie and
Bastrop.
Man, they're just mixing things up.
Constant trades for the most part, but for Strokey and Kylie here at Stevie Springs, south side of the map seems to be working out relatively well for them so far, having that elimination already, and now that's going to alleviate a decent amount of pressure here for Strokey and Kylie. They don't necessarily need to fully push in just yet. They can really wait to see how they want to actually choose to try and reapproach here, but they're not the only team to mix things up a bit, as now Misha and Teeny just above Bryce and Chubbs.
来たはいいものじゃね。
Looking for an opportunity to find an elim or two here.
This is pretty interesting because Teeny and Misha definitely have been having a tough time against Baka and Pars, but Bryce and Chubbs have been jumping in that battle as well. It has been a three-way engagement here at the Shady Stilton around. So Teeny and Misha trying to mix it up, saying, all right, what can we do different? How can we adapt here? Clearly, they made it to the upper bracket, right? But having a tough time so far. Might be looking like a Saturday appearance if they can't turn up and turn up soon.
Meanwhile, Miro might be stuck in an engagement up against Shari is, well, a forced retreat actually. Cooper, very accurate. Some of those Twin Mag shots. Miro leading the charge up against this solo. And it seems like it's only a matter of seconds before Shari is completely collapsed upon, doing everything in his power to try and stay alive just one moment longer to see if there's somewhere that he can build off to actually scurry away and escape. But Cooper and Miro, they are relentless. They refuse to let this opportunity go. And it's going to be another 4 points by the way of Elim as they finally close out on Shari.
You gotta respect that right there. All the way with the initial opener and then the rollout, setting up Miro for successes. He said, hey, look, they're one. Trust me. Miro with no hesitation jumps directly in there.
Things are looking pretty good, though, so far for Threats and Buga over at Sanguine Sweets. It does seem as though they managed to get their way into the...
カナダが負けてるわ。
That
カナダが今34ポイントで27位。
でもあいつらさ、勝った試合伸ばせるからさ、ぶっちゃけどっちも通るんやろな。
Clownsky and Grolls, though, a team that we really saw in quite the position last game.
でも一応今ボーダー外だから。
That seemed to be a little bit lacking in game number 2.
ブーガたちめっちゃブッシー。
So now the mentality here for Grolls and Clownsky, if they want to find some points, want to work their way up even further on that leaderboard, just try and cement themselves into that top 25. But they've got to work through some other teams before they can find themselves there.
Yeah, and work against them for a second there, so Clownsky couldn't unfortunately join Grolls on the push to the top. So lost them a fair bit there, but all in all, they have things under control.
A good height positioning, at least, that can definitely help a lot as far as establishing some surge damage is concerned. Meanwhile, inside of Rumble Ruins, you got Rumba Axe Force hiding inside of a bush. And as well for players, so look for those tag opportunities with some of that safety inside of the bush.
Yeah, now that single Elim right there is onto Cooper. I know we're just hyping up Miro and Cooper's big eliminations they picked up, but look, Miro's now by himself in the distance there, so Cooper caught off guard out in the open there. From his teammate. Here we get to see Heroics Thomas and Malabuka.
応援が強すぎる。これ一生これしてないマジで。
みんなこれやってね。
あ、これトーマスか。テイソンかと思った。でもこいつは1キルしかしてないで。逃げた。
いや、死んでた死んでた。
Adding to their total point count for the day. Because again, we are in game 3 of 5. So this is, I think, technicality of a halfway mark for a lot of these teams, and this is where you can really start to see the consistency that needs to be maintained come into play.
Yeah, one might say this is the most important game of the tournament here. Between game 1 and game 3, I mean, either you set yourself up for success or you turn things around now and come out a victor. And by that, I just mean top 25, right? That is the goal today. And then, of course, Sunday, get as high as possible, make as much money, and be the winner of that $1 million first place prize. Here we got Pink and Vico. I know we're hyping them up. Definitely a team that has had a lot of success. Although, again, playing off the scrappy drop, but look, they find themselves finally fighting Acorn and Cold.
True, but they had Calgamer and 7-Man also on the opposite end of them.
They were kind of
sandwiched in that
position.
So, might be a very tough circumstance for them to actually work around in as well. Here in the heart of Mega City, you got Flixie way up top on the building. Grippe.
うわ、一人やってあれか。
They had a successful
詰めれんかったんかこれ。
Flixie with one elimination.
トーマス一人やってるし。
Looked as if he just got the opportunity to revive Grippe there as well.
アジアまだステイントで出すだけかな、死んだ。
そうね。For a quicker rotation, but Mega City seems to be relatively safe for the time being. And the way Flixie keeps looking down leads me to believe that he's got some form of idea that Suns and Anon are the team directly below him.
just outside of the mega city. King and Phaser cam here.
これな
Very interesting.
終わった後リプレイとか見たいけど
Long track
サイフォンあるし
let's
な
retreat till here. No elims just yet, but this is a perfect time to go ahead and catch up 11. So
立
let's
ち前
hear
で
the
見れ
word.
るか
Thank you, Mo. So, like you see, no elims. We obviously saw at the start of the day, Cal Gamer had a lot to say about Phaser and King's ability. He thought he weren't too good. And King said the same. He thinks they're not as good as they say they are. But these two teams have been going head to head. Not full engagement, but still both teams looking to try and set up for fights where possible. We see them sort of pinching and peeking towards each other at times. And what's happening is that they're both disengaging, right? Neither team is in that top 25. So one of these two teams is going to have to start to step it up. If either of them are going to be making and making that vote useful.
終わるかい終わりかい
for that breakdown.
何のシーン
Whether or not it's going to be Cal Gamer 7-man or King and Phaser, that's going to be the team that finally breaks through from that initial drop spot engagement. But again, with teams just actively choosing to disengage, have to believe that part of that reason is because they don't want to risk being early eliminated in match 3. Acorn cold though. They've got some eliminations on the mind because they want Pink and Vico if they can find it. Cold now applying some pressure onto the backside here. Pink and Vico certain to have to keep an eye out for it. Cold though, just continuing to move around some of these top tier builds. Acorn, Cold. Slight lull in the action.
Vico に嫉妬されるよ。
Try to make sure that their approach is as methodical as
この勝負レベルが高すぎるよ対面
And of this duo here, the highlight player was definitely Acorn in match number 2, where he really went the distance in the end when it mattered. But I'm sure if he can do it one more time, it should be all but solidified.
Acorn 何歳これ
25. This has been a great showing so far, and again contested.
それマジ
How good he would really want so to take out Pink and Vico to send them back to the lobby. To not see them on Sunday would be excellent. They could make a run as grand champions.
But what's interesting is that at Frenzy, keep in mind, Cal Gamer and 7-man were there as well, but they weren't when we last checked in just now. So you have to imagine that 7-man recognizing isn't the type of thing they won't take right now, just like I draw.
でも一人じゃねなんか一人で上げれる今の空島って
一人だけでポイント入んのかな
入るよ
入らんかった前まで一人で上げたら
Yeah, and you know, it's worth 15 points, so it's definitely the position you want to jockey for. Not a single other team has decided that they want to come up here. This could be his lucky, graceful moment here, but no, there is a duo just above them. Could iDrop build a big enough base here to buy himself?
いやー、空島リブートきついかさすがに
Oh no, it seems like the team's actually underneath. Okay, but we jump in with Queasy. Queasy's hurt here. Vino, pretty healthy. They have to double down alongside one another. It's Kylie and Fastroki. Kylie and Fastroki with self-esteem had success down there, and now, because of that, inevitably, it puts them on the pathway to the war path of Vino and Queasy.
なんか怖い
that Kylie just landed onto Vino, took down his shields almost
うわマジかよいやでも全然漁夫ないし
for a moment, utilize one of those legendary slurp juices to make
敵
sure
逃げへん
that
な
he is at ample HP to actually take this engagement. It's Kylie now looking for where he wants to try and make this final approach, but doesn't realize Veno's managed to sneak up behind him. And Veno making sure to return the favor of damage done. Queasy as well, starting to create a little bit of a separation here. Starting to see whether or not he can try and pressure on the other side of these builds from Veno. It's a nice pressure application from this duo. All they've got to do now is finish it.
You know, making Monaco very proud here so far for the upper bracket. This fight now approaching that time where you start to think, how worth it is it? Can we get out of here safe and sound? Is there an exit plan for us? You have to assume.
さすがに以降はないっしょ
The demeanor says so, and we call it just right. They want to get out of there as much as
やば減らされたペポが
off they go. Meanwhile, the same can be said about Pink and Vico. I'm sure they're thinking, okay, what's the game plan here? Acorn and Code know better, but at the same time, Acorn and Code are in
まだ戦ってんのこいつら
position
スラップなくなってるし。
ガチやん、ガチやん。やば。なんか893
やば、893。
いや、もう、安心いけよ。
先行ったら、やばいんじゃない肘の張り合いっぽい、なんか。これピーク死ぬんじゃね？おこれ開けんの？オーマイガッシュ。強っ。強コールド。あそこ開けれんの
？Sealed in the bag. They were in third place coming into this, picking up these elims here. It was so good to kind of run it back one more time. Boxes him up, finishes him off. This is how excellent Cold is in the pocket. Well played.
It just did not seem as though Pink and Nico are ready to tackle Cold from that position, but being towards that frenzy field side, they're going to have a great opportunity now for Acorn and Cold to make an approach towards the zone from the dead side rotation. So curious to see how that actually pans out for them later on. But as for Rise, solid as ever in terms of applying damage.
They're also the only team that finished top 5 in every major.
いや、ここのショートが普通に強すぎるマジでどう考えても。
トマシングに？あ、無視悪ってか。敵か。敵か。え、ワンチャン？ああ、やば。返され方。
いや、もうダメだ。一人で伸ばせ。
Malabuka wants nothing of that. The ME boy says, "Hey, listen, you're up.
マジかよ。
We got this."
Absolutely insane though, just how quickly Malabuka was able to escape from that position, because it really looked as if Kiyomi and Rapid were about to finish off this duo. But with Thomas being out of the picture, Malabuka, granted, we know that he's capable of making those solo clutch circumstances happen, but with so many power in this lobby as a team, that's a solo spot.
ああ、サジ食らってんな、ユーマジャイも。しんどそう。きつそうでね、もう、なんか。
ユーマジャイも食らってる？
うん、ユーマジャイも食らってる。いや、キルログ見たくない。
Rotating all the way down from the north side. Coming up short here now.
うわ、マジキルログ見たくない。
Apart, Misha is looking to replenish himself here, but the storm surge is active. And Vanyak just says, "Hey, you know what? I want nothing to do with this. It's already looking pretty tough. I'm gonna just go ahead and rotate on out of here. They're gonna crash pad their way across and."
え、ライズ死んでるやん。このショット最強じゃね？普通に。スナイパーヘッションワンチャン。
いや、それね。
ペポ強いな、ペポたち。これ。はい、余裕で入ってんで、これ。しかもフル HP やし。え、生きてる、ユーマジャイモン。ああ、ジャイモン多分グルーされてたな、今。
これ遠じゃね？なんか神が取ってね。あ、神はエオンブズやってる。
あ、ジャイモン死んだな。どこ行ってんの？
They're checking bushes. They're looking around. They're trying to see who is lingering about. They already have themselves their third elimination. And they're sitting on top of the loot, so this is a full-on refresh for someone who was up on high ground here, so this is an excellent find for them. Meanwhile, looking at the top 5 here, Ritual and Reet are leading the charge by a fair margin. The only team on their heels now, Cold and Acorn, as Geras and Shari
チャーリー死んだ、ブーが死んだ、ユーマ死んだ。ザゴマリブがやってるやん。ラークベックスとボビーいい感じやな。
最初の方で死んでないけど、10ポイント入る前にずっとラークさんたち死んでんだよな。
そうなんだよ。いや、ザゴさんたちでも左回りできそうやけどな。
They still got to keep pushing forward. They still got
to keep trying and
stay ahead of these zones wherever possible. But
バッカーとかの位
two
置やば。
revives into the match already, Monster. You can tell that they're definitely having some tough times with making these rotations.
And I know we're jumping in with Monaco's mustache and Falcon Taste in here, but I want to give
うわ、この移動で死にたくねえな。ザゴさんたち。シロン生きてるけどきついな。
Tayson's got a lot of problems knocking on his door. Ping has got knocked in the mix there. So while he was focused on Tayson, other teams started to look inwards, and I'm not sure Tayson understands that there was a down body there.
Or maybe he did and might be interested in trying to pursue it.
He's thinking about it.
Kyrie hoping he can get
there it is.
Seeing in time, but it's going to be too much from Tayson. Interruption on that revive. Now it's Tayson and Mustache seeing if they can finish what somebody else had started. They managed to get the material refresh, the item refresh as well. They wanted there for the taking. Tayson will swap out for that double legendary slurp juices. Powering through some of these builds that have already been pre-established here, and
キルグ全然見てなかったけど死んでないよな。ゲームが3キルしてる。バックやったん。あのハイグライター。クイジワンチャンレーザーサイで死にそう。
あ、死だな。死じゃないけどめっちゃなんかもうハイグラ
あるんじゃね？あるんじゃね？
ある
なんか
あるけど。あ、鉄が待ってたんだ。またハイグラ狙う。
It's all about that middle though at this point for Queasy,
especially
having some pressure being applied to you from the high ground. More durable your builds, the better. As far as though, which way he wants to
target.
Recognizing the fact that he's got his chance right now. Just keep building up. Again, with it being metal, it's so difficult for teams to really take a second to try and chop it out just yet. Queasy deliver the connect onto some
あるよね。
逆に繋げたと思えばね。神セッティの場所神すぎるけど。
Limited builds to just get there, connects
it
to
the
structure in the distance, but Cammy and Seti are looking backwards and they're saying, no, not today, not in this lobby. I want to fight for it as well. We need a big game here. We need it now. And all of a sudden now they are the
いやー、これ選手たちガチ頑張ってほしいな。もう神セッティはクオルだからもう落とすだけじゃねえしょ。
Vino, Queasy will run with this.
クールしてるやつらにかぶせるのきついな心臓的に。いや強これ。
I just love how we're seeing again NA's best and EU's best, right? Back to back here, two different perspectives, two totally different layers. Acorn and Cold again. Just excellent low ground teams playing to what they play best, and they're doing it well here. Meanwhile, you do of course have your other teams fighting for height, so an excellent play to watch unfold here. But we jump on the pars and NA pars here too. No
セッティにあれ勝ったん。セッティ側やったね、アンチ。
いないか。
それない。死んでる？
全然見えてる。
アジア全員死んでる？
ラーさん死んでた？
いや、わからん。あ、生きてる生きてる。やってるやってる、ラーさん。
They can tell there's players trying to make their way around the edges next to them. Two crash pads remain here at Acorn's disposal. Cold following closely behind. Cammy and Seti though, they seem to be making an idea of their own.
ガチで熱いかもしれん。それは普通に。
ボビーさんまだやってるよ。
しかもどっちもいいかも。
結構よくね？
待って、映してくれ頼む。
あ、事故った。
これ勝つんだ。ラークさん頑張れ。一桁いけ。い
ってるけね。あ、ラークさんいる。
あ、キルし。
フル HP フル HP。今思いついしてね。
待って。
ラークお前。
これアジアで多分今1位。
ラーク
やっば。待って。
これラークさんちゃうわ。
死んでるから。
嘘やろ？
またダウン入った。ワンパで消えてよ。
ローフェクス4位は
4分。
そのいい。
あ、でも、ソロ、ナークさんだけじゃね。88ポイントやって。
8キル。
あ、もう確定。
待って。
つい
やばい。すぐい。
確定や。
10キル。ラクフェクス1人で10キルしたで今。
何キルした最後その終盤の。もう絶対確定だ。
確定。ラクフェクスやばい。やばっ。
What？まさかの一番1位やな、アジアで。
I do. I'm so excited to talk to these guys because they're known for one of the most consistent placements in all of the games that they play, and you haven't disappointed us so far. What's it like, Cole, taking a victory royale on day one here in Copenhagen?
I don't know. It's an insane feeling. I mean, this guy's just, I don't know. This guy's on something else. Like, this guy's the best player, I think. I'm serious.
Yeah, doing it for Canada. We saw you in the air, nearly clutching the victory royale in the previous game, and now you've taken it one step further. For you, is it a bit of a dream to perform so well so early in the competition?
Of course. I mean, like, getting ahead early is always the best, and no pressure now, you know?
Yeah, you're not feeling the pressure. You're pretty set on Sunday already. Why do you think you are able so frequently to take down the competition?
確定だ。今25秒だ。ジャパニーズいるかな。ザボペポは28位で死んでるね。
You qualified way back in Major 1. How do you
ユ
feel
マさん
like
とでも36
the
ポイ
game
ン
and
ト
the
で。
way you've had to play it has
や
changed
ばボ
over
ビ
the past year?
ラク。
I mean, everything's changed. You
パ
know,
パ
we
さん
kind
た
of
ち
did good in the
2キル
beginning,
してるけ
then
ど。
we had a little downfall, and everything's changing.
8
But
ポイン
we're
トだ。
adapting pretty well.
You say downfall. What do you mean by
6
downfall?
位、2位、1位だよ。
You did
ポー
place
ル
top
たち。
10 in all three majors in
マジ
North America this year that you
今
played.
200何ポイントぐらいで
So for you,
40ポイント差ぐらいで
what's a bad
1位だ。
Anything under first.
Anything under third? Well, it's looking like you're probably going to have a very good day. Now, I've got to step back to the desk very quickly, though, before I do. Akon said such nice things about you, Cole. Have you got a message for him?
This guy is actually the best IG on the game. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. This guy just, his brain is just, no one can compete.
Well, I can hear Akon
ラクフェクスやばマジで。
stop over there. So I will stop on your behalf and we'll head back to the desk.
10キルやで。あいつ一人で。
1人で。でも終盤だけで7キルくらい。
一回もう一回見よう。こいつやばい。完全に覚醒してたの。ゾーン入ってるでしょ。
ゾーン入りすぎ。
もうこのもうなんかこの辺でさおかしかったけどでもラクフェクスの。
そうね。マンたちをなんかボコしたんだ。あとこれ。
To force their way in here. 8 elims now, probably the most that are alive at the moment.
これやばい。これやばい。
And unfortunately, Muzz to follow suit, but Mustache.
うわ
ワンチ
ャンセッティもやったこれ。あ、ちゃうな。
セッティ違う。
これやって下行って取って
これワンベンツがやばない。
ワンパンで隠し入れてワンパンえぐい。10キルだぞ。
マジでやばい。
こいつやばいぞ。こいつらで稼いでるっしょぶっちゃけ。だってこいつら
そっか。
ポイント1じゃね今の試合の。11キル2。
56ポイントで44だから110。
やばすぎ。
100ポイントちょうどか。
We're trying to end the day in the top 25, go straight through to Sunday. Acorn and Cold here in that number 1 spot, breaking 200 points. All right. This is day 1, guys. Save some for Sunday.
This is what I love to see, you know. I gave a little bit of a sneak peek as to who I was going to be rooting for earlier on in the day, and it was Acorn Gold. It was the NA boys, and I'm very happy to see them up there. This honestly has big implications for all. Spawn that right, play a little bit more aggressive in that sense.
Pink and Vico, you're looking at these guys going, hold on a minute, we are letting them run away with things. We need to maybe think about putting a bit more pressure on them, making these games a bit more difficult for them. I'm personally looking at some of the players beneath them, right? Queasy and Veno just below. We saw how hot they started the day. They're going to be looking above them thinking, okay, you know, these guys are setting the tempo, but we're going to do our thing up on height while they do their thing down below. It's been weird for Queasy and Veno, especially, right? Because we're seeing them so consistently going into these endgames in position to play our height very, very well, right? It's typical stuff for them. But they're having a couple problems, right? Where other EU compatriots
じゃあね、2時なんでね、配信終わります。ありがとうございました。